He couldn't help feeling exceptionally curious about that girl named Phoenix Wu. Who was that girl exactly? It was surprising that the seventh prince, who was arrogant and picky and who always regarded women as toys, was now missing a girl morning, noon, and night. However, though he had been away from home for 9 years, he was positive that there was no girl named Phoenix Wu in the Wu family. Before taking his leave, Coldness Wu seemed to have suddenly recalled something. He paused and said, "Your Highness, since that girl named Phoenix Wu appeared in the woods of the Murong family, maybe there's some kind of connection between her and people of the Murong mansion." Zhou Feiyu took a sip of the tea as vaguely as usual, but a piercing look flashed across his eyes. "That's why I want you to deal with it." Hearing this, Coldness Wu was stunned, and with that he secretly sighed, briefly feeling depressed. It was so difficult to deduce what his master was thinking about, since his thoughts were so unpredictable. In fact, he had ordered an inquiry into this issue before. Rumors in the Luo city said that a teenage girl made a scene in the offshoot mansion of the Murong family and also blustered that she would massacre members of the Murong family. But eventually, the whole thing ended with Cloud Murong finding his natural mother and adopting a daughter, which sounded very tacky. After that, the teenage girl never showed up. The result of a further investigation suggested that the girl and her grandmother were villagers of a small, remote village, which didn't conform to the prince's description of that girl named Phoenix Wu. As a result, the scope of the investigation extended and some other cities were involved. But Coldness Wu believed that a girl who was able to cause so much damage to the Murong mansion was by no means an ordinary one, and that there must be something wrong with the result of the investigation. Hearing his master's words, Coldness Wu nodded and left at a sure-footed pace. "Show yourself." The moment Coldness Wu left, Zhou Feiyu in noble elegant attire raised his eyes, gave a glimpse at a corner and said in a deep voice. The instant he finished the last word, a black figure flashed over like a shadow and knelt down on one knee in front of him. "Your Highness, we found her." The name of that teenage girl who made a scene in the Murong mansion was indeed Phoenix Wu. She has purple eyes and is in early stage of Tier 7, and also has some weird medical skills. Currently, she's in a small village named Lian Village on the border between the Luo city and the Water city. Finally, Zhou Feiyu paused, holding the teacup. He cast his piercing eyes onto that man in black who was kneeling on the ground, and... What about her background? Is she a member of the Wu family? I specially sneaked into the Wu family and read the family tree, and I also made some inquiries, but there's not a girl named Phoenix Wu in the Wu family. I also mobilized resources of the Underground Intelligence Network and investigated all families bearing the surname Wu in the whole Zhou Kingdom but didn't find any information about the background of the girl named Phoenix Wu. Clearly Zhou Feiyu was rather displeased with this answer. He frowned, a look of callousness tinged with anger flashing across his face. The man in black seemed to have sensed his master's mood. He lowered his head and hurriedly said in a respectful tone, "Your Highness, though I failed to get any information about Miss Wu's background, I found something highly suspicious." The look of apathy mixed with nobility reappeared on Zhou Feiyu's face. In a cold voice, he said, "What is it?" Eyes of the incumbent empress also turn purple when she mobilizes her fighting spirit. A few days ago, she sent 8 Tier 8 peak stage assassins and a Tier 9 middle stage assassin, who were all members of her dragon clan, to search for somebody, but they were wiped out in the Magic Beasts forest in the west. It is said that a grand kung fu master was also killed, his body unaccounted for. After saying this, the man in black paused. The look in Zhou Feiyu's piercing eyes went rather cold when he heard these remarks. Purple eyes? She also had purple eyes. Was there by any chance some kind of connection between that Phoenix Wu and the incumbent empress? A few days ago, news about what Miss Wu did in the Murong mansion also spread to the imperial city. The empress secretly dispatched 2 grand assassins of the dragon clan to the Luo city. It seems as if they're looking for someone. Levels of assassins: Tier 1 to Tier 9 assassin, Grand Assassin, Assassin Saint, Venerable Assassin. Grand Assassins were elite assassins. Since the Empress dispatched 2 of them at one time, it seemed that the person she wanted to find was no ordinary person. Judging by the current clues, it was very likely that her target was Phoenix Wu. After hearing the report, Zhou Feiyu didn't show any expression on his face, and neither did he say anything, so naturally that man in black also kept silent, kneeling on one knee. After quite a while, "You may leave." No order was issued. His voice returned to normal, which was callous and unconcerned. The man in black answered, "Yes," respectfully, and then disappeared into this luxurious living room with a swish. Instantly, Zhou Feiyu, who was sitting in the main seat, became the only one in the living room. However, right at this moment, the air about him instantaneously became sepulchral. The Empress? An icy look appeared in his piercing eyes and his sexy, thin lips clamped tightly together, which made the contours of his handsome face look somewhat grim. Night had just fallen. Two mysterious figures swished onto the roof of the Murong mansion and then deliberately gave off their powerful qi, which then spread towards the mansion. "What is it?" "Intruders. Move." Lamps and torches were instantly lit up in the Murong mansion. Batches of guards flooded towards the source of the potent qi. The pervasive powerful qi also alarmed many other people in the mansion, including Cloud Murong, Sky Murong, who were isolated in the East Garden. Qi of a grand kung fu master. No. Grand assassin. Sky Murong and the others walked out of the courtyard and raised their heads. Seeing the two middle-aged men in black on the roof of the highest house, they furrowed her brow. "If I may ask, why did you pay us a visit at night?" Cloud Murong cupped his hands before his chest as a friendly gesture and said in a fairly respectful tone. Showing respect to the strong was necessary. He didn't want to offend anybody. Especially on this occasion when these two grand assassins gave off their potent qi but didn't launch an attack, which indicated that they were probably not here to fight. Hearing Cloud Murong's words, the slightly shorter and thinner one of the two assassins said in a deep, cold voice which sounded as if it had been amplified by some sort of device, "Which one of you is the Lord of Luo City?" Hearing this, all people in the Murong mansion heightened their vigilance. Sky Murong tried to step forward but was stopped by Cloud Murong. "I am. What can I do for you?" Cloud Murong took a step forward and said. The two glimpsed at Cloud Murong, who was down below. Naturally, they noticed that those guards were all standing by outside the courtyard, as if they were not allowed to enter the East Garden, so all they could do was staring up at the targets with vigilant eyes. It seemed that people in this Murong mansion had really been infected with pestilence. I heard that a few days ago a teenage girl made a scene in Murong mansion. And after that, the Lord of Luo City adopted her. I'd like to see that girl. Is she in? Another grand assassin said. His words stunned all people of the Murong mansion. Surprisingly, these two grand assassin were here for Phoenix Wu. Didn't that Phoenix Wu come from that small village? Why these grand assassins wanted to find her? Did she have a secret identity? Cloud Murong kept silent for a while and then said, "Sorry. She's already left Murong mansion. Currently, we don't know where she is either. May I ask why you want to find her?" She left? The two grand assassins furrowed their brows and a murderous look flashed across the bottom of their eyes. You adopted her merely a couple of days ago, but now you're telling me that she left and that her whereabouts are unknown. It seems that you guys of Murong mansion are trying to hide her from us. Killing aura specific to assassins accompanied by their powerful qi spread outwards. Earth Murong took a step forward and said in a deep voice, "Why would we lie to you? The day before yesterday, she was evicted from Murong family." Yes. Everybody in the Luo city knows this. It seemed that the two grand assassins hadn't expected the target would leave before they arrived. Then is there anybody who knows her whereabouts? Anybody tells me where she is will be handsomely rewarded. The shorter assassin, whose code name was 19, fished out a gold ingot and said to those people down below. Seeing this, Cloud Murong knitted his eyebrows. In a poised voice tinged with coldness, he said, "Your Excellency, I've already said that she left. We don't know where she is. Currently, we're troubled by pestilence. Who has the time to look for that little girl?" No matter what, the Murong family was the ruling family of the Luo city. How could they be bribed with a gold ingot? If they took the offer, how were they supposed to face residents of the Luo city? As a result, although Sky Murong, Earth Murong and some others held grudges against Yun Wu, they didn't interpose to offer any information. However, right on cue, a loud voice came from a courtyard. I know. Snow Murong, supported by two handmaids, slowly and arduously walked out of the courtyard of the West Wing. Then she raised her head and looked at the two black figures standing on the roof of the highest house. Hearing this, the two grand assassins instantly looked in the direction of the courtyard in the west. Very good, little girl. Tell us, and this gold ingot is yours. 19 slightly curved his lips and said. But Snow Murong despised that gold ingot. I don't want your gold ingot. I want you to kill that damn bitch when you find her. Yesterday Yun Wu humiliated and threatened her. She was horrified but also deeply hated Yun Wu. Hearing this, the two grand assassins burst into laugh. What a ruthless little girl. But I like you. Now tell us where she is. Your wish will surely be fulfilled. A vicious look flashed across the bottom of her eyes when Snow Murong heard his words. She's in a western, Snow Murong. Suddenly, a sedate, resonant voice came, as if amplified. Naturally, that voice was Cloud Murong's. Hearing that voice, Snow Murong paused. With a frown, she looked in the direction of the east garden, which was not far away. Eyes cold, the two grand assassins darted a sideways glance at Cloud Murong. It seems that you guys of Murong Mansion are really hiding something. With a cold, sepulchral look on his face, Cloud Murong raised his head and looked at the two grand assassins. If nothing else here concerns your excellencies, please leave. Otherwise, Murong Mansion will have no choice but to inform our elders in closed-door cultivation. In that case, I'm afraid we might cross swords with each other, and you'll have to excuse us for having no idea how to receive our guests with hospitality. What? In our eyes, Murong Mansion is nothing. How dare you threaten us? The look on the face of that taller grand assassin, whose code name was 18, went cold. Saying no more, Cloud Murong produced a whistle-like object from somewhere and blew it. No sound was heard. But special sound waves had spread outwards. The two grand assassins seemed to be surprised that this Cloud Murong did dare do this. Their faces instantly went angry and cold. You're courting death. After saying this in a sepulchral voice, 19 wanted to jump down. Wait, but 18 stopped him. There's pestilence in this Murong Mansion. Don't be so impulsive. The taskmaster assigned to us is the most important thing. 18's words calmed 19 down. Little girl, you just said that she was in a place in the west. Where is it exactly? Don't be afraid. As long as you tell us, we will kill her for you. You have my word. 19 looked in the direction of Snow Murong and tried to tempt her. Snow Murong was eager to tell them. However, it seems that your excellencies are trying to make things tough for us. Cloud Murong's voice instantly went cold, and with that he leaped onto the roof. 19 and 18 exchanged eye contact. In their sight, killing Cloud Murong, who was merely at tier 9, was as easy as killing an ant. However, they hadn't decided whether they should kill him or not when everybody vaguely sensed that several potent chi were coming in their direction from various positions in Murong Mansion. Fine. Since you're unwilling to cooperate, prepare yourselves to face the consequences of offending Dragon Clan. 19 darted a cold glance at Cloud Murong. The moment he finished the last word, the two black figures swished away. However, the face of everybody in Murong Mansion changed when they heard the last remark. Dragon Clan. That was the biggest and most mysterious assassin organization in Zhou Kingdom. It was said that every assassin of Dragon Clan was top-notch kung fu expert. There was a saying that most people living near marketplaces knew, smart people would rather offend the emperor than offend Dragon Clan. Otherwise, one would get killed without knowing how. The two people were members of Dragon Clan. God. If they had known this, they would never have covered for that fledgling little girl. Now they had offended Dragon Clan. The consequences would be Thinking about this, everybody was horrified. But Cloud Murong knitted his eyebrows. It was not the consequences but Grandma Medicine and Yunwu that he was worried about. Since this dragon clan had come to Murong Mansion, it was very likely that before long, they would find some clues that would lead them to Lien Village. In that cottage in the valley. The candlelight was not very bright, but people in the room could see things clear enough. At this moment, that small table was full of dishes. Little Leaf cooked all these. Yunwu had tried to help, but it turned out that her cooking skills were not as good as her killing skills. Since she was more of a hindrance than a help, they ended up having dinner so late. Granny, this is an old hen Sister Lee gave us. Elder sister and I stewed it for several hours. Have a try. See if it's delicious. Tough still a young girl, Little Leaf could do things as well as an adult. Her mouth had been watering all along, but as a very dutiful granddaughter, she chose to serve a bowl of chicken soup, with a big drumstick in it, to Grandma Medicine first. And then she filled another bowl with soup, put a big chicken drumstick in it and passed it to Yunwu. After that she filled a small bowl with soup for herself. Elder sister. Have a try. Sister Lee gave this chicken to you. You should eat more. Yunwu was moved at Little Leaf's behavior. This girl herself probably had no idea how adorable she was and how deeply Yunwu was touched. With her chopsticks, Yunwu put the chicken drumstick to Little Leaf's bowl, a doting look flashing across her eyes that were usually apathetic. I don't like chicken drumsticks, so I want you to eat it for me. This chicken drumstick is very delicious. Elder sister really doesn't like it? Hearing this, Little Leaf looked at Yunwu with an earnest look. After Yunwu nodded very earnestly, Little Leaf was relieved, grabbed the drumstick and started chomping on it. Seeing this, Yunwu smiled. Slow down. You might choke on it. Then she moved her eyes to Grandma Medicine. Granny, have some. Don't worry about those people in Murong Mansion. Nothing will happen to them anytime soon. Grandma Medicine had been preoccupied all day long, so of course Yunwu knew it. Hearing her words, Grandma Medicine involuntarily looked at Yunwu. You can tell? Yunwu smiled blandly. Granny, it's on your face. I'm afraid not only I but also Little Leaf could tell. Little Leaf nodded on hearing Yunwu's remarks, gnawing at the chicken drumstick. With a wry smile, Grandma Medicine said, Granny is useless. You both were wronged in there because of me. Her brow furrowing, Little Leaf stopped eating the chicken drumstick. What are you talking about, Granny? As long as I'm with you, I'll never feel wronged. Feeling wronged? With Yunwu's ability, who could wrong her? Others should feel lucky if she didn't wrong them. However, seeing the bitter look on Grandma Medicine's face, Yunwu still couldn't help letting out a sigh. Granny, after dinner, I'll teach you acupuncture, and then manipulation skills. Grandma Medicine had some pharmacological knowledge, but it was primitive compared with advanced medical skills of modern times, especially when it came to preparing remedies with herbs. Acupuncture. Manipulation skills. There were all new words. Wooer, you're talking about. Grandma Medicine clearly didn't quite understand. If I'm right, with acupuncture, manipulation of a couple of special acupoints and some antiphlogistic herbal medicine, Wilderness Murong's illness will be cured, said Yunwu. Antiphlogistic herbal medicine. Wooer, is antiphlogistic herbal medicine really a cure for that pestilence? Grandma Medicine was uncertain. Even Little Leaf was very curious about it. Yunwu couldn't help curving her lips in a smile. Granny, there's no need for you to ask so many questions. Just regard it as pestilence, and you're the only one who can cure that pestilence, so when you go there to treat the disease, remember to have others leave the room. As for the herbal medicine, I'll have Little Leaf pound the herbs for you in advance. Her words were somewhat confusing. Grandma Medicine only understood part of them. But knowing that the pestilence could be cured, Grandma Medicine was greatly relieved. Elder sister, we were evicted from Murong Mansion. How could Granny get in there to treat them? They will surely try to chase us away, Little Leaf pointed out the key issue. This was also another thing that Grandma Medicine was worried about. Now that they had been evicted from Murong Mansion, the third uncle and the others probably wouldn't believe her, even if she was willing to go back. Hearing this, Yunwoo smiled, a self-conceited look flashing across her purple eyes. Just enjoy the dinner. You don't have to worry about this issue. Do what I tell you to do, and in just a couple of days, you'll be able to return to the Murong family in fine style, and nobody will dare bully you ever again. The next day. Dawn had just broken when a group of people came to this small village of simplicity. Yunwoo had scarcely walked past the threshold and stretched out a little bit when Little Leaf rapidly rushed back. Elder sister, there are a lot of people outside the village. They requested Granny's presence. Face red, Little Leaf was panting heavily due to the fast running. Where's Granny? It was just after dawn, but Grandma Medicine was nowhere to be found. Little Leaf said, Granny got up very early and went up the mountain to collect 3-leaf medicinal herbs with antiphlogistic properties. The night before, Yunwoo taught them acupuncture and manipulation skills, but they still needed a kind of 3-leaf medicinal herb with antiphlogistic properties, so Grandma Medicine went uphill to collect some early in the morning. Hearing this, Yunwoo asked Little Leaf, do you know who those people outside the village are? However, there was no need for Little Leaf to answer. They saw that in the distance, several groups of people carrying sedan chairs were walking in their direction. Seeing those people, Yunwoo slightly raised her eyebrows and curved her lips in a faint smile. Little Leaf, go tell them that Grandma Medicine is not in. And then ask Sisterly to bring some strong men here and get these people out of our village. If they want to resort to violence, ask Sisterly to tell them that Grandma Medicine will never treat them if they attack our people. Why? Little Leaf asked subconsciously. But the next moment, she scratched her head and giggled, I understand. I'll do whatever elder sister tells me. I'll go there right now. Upon these words, Little Leaf ran towards those people. Most of those people were distant relatives of the Murong family. Back then in that room, a lot of them got infected. Family members of that best doctor of Luo City also came. This was also a contributing factor to the panic among residents of Luo City. Even the best doctor was infected. Who else could possibly treat them? It had been a couple of days, some of them must have shown symptoms of edema. But none of these insignificant people was Yunwoo's target. She wanted to use a big bait to catch a big fish. At noon, another group of people arrived at the outside of the village, but unlike those arrived in the morning, they were led by a young, handsome man, the team behind whom was neat and orderly. However, they had scarcely arrived at the entrance of the village when a couple of strong male villagers blocked their path. A villager said in a gruff voice, Who are you people? Grandma Medicine is not meeting any one of you. Please return. Stop wasting time here. Fellow townsmen, we're from the Ouyang Mansion in Water City. There's an emergency and we really need Grandma Medicine's help. Please do us a favor and let us through. Ouyang walked forward and said in an elegant, courteous manner. His attitude was far more polite than that of those who arrived in the morning. However, before that villager could answer him, one of the several groups of people who had been waiting all along said in a cold, sarcastic tone, You think they'll let you through just because you called them fellow townsmen? Take a rest and then retrace your steps back home. Grandma Medicine won't even meet people from Luo City, not to mention you guys from Water City. Upon hearing that voice, Guard Lin, who was standing behind Ouyang Ku, knitted his eyebrows, turned around and looked in the direction of those people sitting under a big tree. It seemed that the villagers didn't allow them to enter the village either. You're members of the offshoot mansion of the Murong family? Guard Lin noticed the symbols on their clothes. Judging from the symbols on their clothes, they were members of the several offshoot mansions of the Murong family, but he didn't see any symbols of the main mansion of the Murong family. Of course. Grandma Medicine is the natural mother of Lord Murong. She's a member of Murong Mansion, a member of the 6th offshoot mansion of the Murong family said. Members of other offshoot mansions all nodded on hearing this. But Guard Lin snorted, You guys from Murong Mansion are really thick-skinned. I heard that several days ago you evicted her from Murong Mansion, but now you're telling me that she's a member of Murong Mansion. Your shameless deeds really broadened my horizons. The Murong family and the Ouyang family had always been mortal enemies, so both sides showed undisguised hostility in this encounter. Upon hearing his sarcastic words, all those people sitting under the tree abruptly stood up with a sullen face, anger surging through them. Don't go too far, dude. This is Murong family's turf. You're just an outsider. It's not your place to comment on Murong family's issue. This is Murong family's turf. You, however, when the tension was reaching a flashpoint, a chilly voice came from somewhere, Tisk, TSK. Did you come to my turf to fight for its ownership? Upon hearing this, everybody looked in the direction of the source of the voice. When they saw that purple, neat figure, everybody was stunned, amazed by her beauty. That was a beautiful, purple-eyed teenage girl clothed in purple. Any man would have been attracted and stared at her. Seeing Yunwu walking over, the several villagers guarding the entrance of the village said with a respectful look in their eyes, Miss Wu, why did you come here? Rest assured. We won't let them disturb you. That's right. They'll have to kill us to get in. All people living in Lian village respected Yunwu very much. She not only had excellent medical skills but also was a Tier 7 warrior. Among all villagers in this small village, the son of the Li family, Li Shuyang, who managed to reach Tier 2, was the strongest. As a result, all of them were in awe of this Tier 7 warrior. In their sight, a kung fu expert like her would never even degrade herself talking to them, not to mention treat their injuries. But this Miss Wu not only treated their wounds, but also prepared a kind of herbal remedy which could help improve their constitutions, giving villagers, who had no cultivation foundation, a chance to cultivate. This great kindness was engraved in all villagers' hearts, so when Miss Wu needed their assistance, they felt that it was incumbent on them to offer help. There's no need to put it so seriously, Uncle Li. If they really want to intrude in our village, just let them in. But once you intrude in, Grandma Medicine will be in a bad mood. And when she's in a bad mood, her memory will go bad. If she forgets how to treat the pestilence, then the disease will keep spreading. Saying this, Yunwu vaguely grabbed a green bristlegrass and clamped it between her lips. She looked very casual and languid. However, after hearing her words, all those people waiting outside the village clenched their teeth in anger. Wasn't she putting on airs? Ouyang Ku seemed exceptionally excited on the sight of her, and the look in his eyes were growing more and more ardent as he watched her every move. He couldn't help but hurriedly take a few steps forward, cup his hands before his chest and said courteously, Miss, I'm Ouyang Ku from Water City. We once met in the Magic Beasts Forest in the west. Do you still remember me? Yunwu vaguely raised her eyes and took a bland glance at Ouyang Ku, who was wearing a cyan brocade robe, looking genial, cultured and elegant, and fairly handsome, too. I think so, after sizing him up for quite a while, she answered blandly. Her answer made Ouyang Ku feel both amazed and delighted. He walked a couple of steps closer and said, Miss, I meant to pay you a visit back at the time when you were still in Murong Mansion, but if you want to talk, just talk. Don't try to slip into our village. Before he could finish his sentence, a gruff voice interrupted him. It turned out that Ouyang Ku had unconsciously crossed the village boundary of Lian village, walking towards Yunwu while talking. Seeing this, Uncle Li and the other villagers immediately hurried forward, opened their arms and stopped Ouyang Ku from getting close to Yunwu. How dare you be impertinent to our master? You're courting death. Upon seeing this, Guard Lin angrily walked forward, meaning to pull out his sword. Swish! A green bristlegrass shot over like a silver needle and hit the back of Guard Lin's hand. Guard Lin's movement froze and his whole palm went numb and limp. An astonished look flashed across Guard Lin's eyes. He raised his head and looked over those villagers' shoulders at Yunwu. The green bristlegrass between her lips was gone. Those villagers didn't notice, but Ouyang Ku did. Guard Lin, stay back, Ouyang Ku ordered in a deep voice and then politely drew a few steps back outside the village boundary. My apologies. My subordinate and I were impolite. I do beg your pardon, Miss, Uncles. He was cultured, courteous and moderately humble. Uncle Lee and the others involuntarily sized him up, their moods growing much better. Master Ouyang, you brought so many people here. Do you want to intrude into our village? All villagers here are unarmed. Yunwu took a glance at those over 10 guards standing outside the village, lifted her eyebrows and then looked at Ouyang Ku. Please don't get me wrong, Mississippi. We're not bandits or hooligans. It's just that my grandfather is seriously ill, so I came here to invite Grandma Medicine to Ouyang Mansion and help treat him, Ouyang Ku hurriedly said in a courteous manner, as if he was worried that she might misunderstand him. Really? But it seemed as if your guard was trying to draw his sword on us. Yunwu curved her lips in a half-smile. Was that how people of Ouyang Mansion send an invitation? It was really special. A thoughtful look crossed the bottom of his eyes when Ouyang Ku heard her remarks. And with that, he curved his lips in a mild, elegant smile. You misunderstood us, Mississippi. We departed from Ouyang Mansion in a haste and forgot to bring some decent presents with us. That subordinate of mine doesn't have any valuables on him, so he wanted to offer you his sword as a gift. That sword was forged from refined materials in Ouyang Mansion. It doesn't count as a lavish gift, but villagers of this Lien village could use it to defend themselves. Please accept it. With his amazing eloquence, Ouyang Ku managed to maneuver through this awkward situation with a tactfully worded reply. After that, he turned his head around and winked at Guard Lin who was standing behind him. That hand of Guard Lin's was still numb and stiff, but he hurriedly unfastened the sword from his belt. As if by tacit agreement, those 10+ guards behind him also did the same thing. Before long, more than 10 exquisite swords were placed before Uncle Lee and other villagers. Are these for us? Having been in this village all along, those strong men beside Uncle Lee had never touched this kind of premium sword before. On the sight of those exquisite swords, they got somewhat excited, their eyes lighting up. However, they didn't took them but looked in the direction of Yunwu. Since people of Ouyang Mansion are so courteous, we should accept their gifts. Lien Village indeed could use some decent weapons like these, Yunwu said in a languid, casual manner. Ouyang Ku's deep, black eyes lit up when he heard her words. These are just greeting gifts. Lavish presents from Ouyang family will arrive soon. We'll respectfully carry Grandma Medicine to Ouyang Mansion with a big sedan chair carried by 8 person. She'll be our honored guest. Nobody knew whether he was saying this to Yunwu or to those people behind him. Anyway, soon after he made these remarks, in a muted voice, Guard Lin said something to 2 guards who then quickly left. Yunwu made no response to Ouyang Ku's remarks. She turned her head aside and said to Uncle Lee and the other villagers, Uncle Lee, hand out those swords to villagers. It's about time for lunch. There's no need to stay here any longer. Then she turned around and walked towards the valley at a moderate pace. Watching her receding figure, Ouyang Ku didn't walk forward but seemed to be waiting for something. Hearing that nobody would stop them from going inside, those people of offshoot mansions of Murong family intended to enter the village, but then, seeing that Ouyang Ku was still standing outside, they dithered. This Ouyang Ku was notoriously sly. There must be a reason why he didn't enter the village. Those people from the offshoot mansions of Murong family couldn't help but whisper into their subordinates' ears. Soon, several figures quickly left. In the main mansion of Murong family, most of those who got infected that day had shown symptoms of distension. Concubine Chu, whose distension was the severest, was confined to bed, her body swollen like an inflated balloon. The numbness and pains had been torturing her day and night, giving her insomnia. The condition of Sky Murong and Earth Murong was no better. Cloud Murong was the only one who didn't show that kind of symptom. In the East Garden, Wilderness Murong, whose swelling was reduced that day, had been swelling up again during the past 2 days. At this moment, his arm was tied by a red thread, the other end of which was held by a white-bearded old man sitting outside the door. He was Medic Chen from that border city. In case it was really pestilence, he didn't dare go inside but decided to feel the patient's pulse at the doorway. Cloud Murong, third uncle Sword Murong and a couple of other elders whose symptoms were not that serious were all sitting in the room, waiting for Medic Chen's diagnosis. After quite a while, Medic Chen stopped feeling the patient's pulse, a deep frown on his face. Then he stroked his white beard, face full of confusion and strange thoughtfulness. Medic Chen, how's my father? Cloud Murong asked worriedly. His pulse is steady. Actually, it's steadier than before. Judging from this symptom, Old Lord's condition is better than the last time I felt his pulse. Did Old Lord show any special symptoms a couple of days ago? Or did you have another doctor treat him? Cloud Murong gave him a general account of what happened a few days ago. After hearing his words, Medic Chen kept silent for a while and then raised his head and said to Cloud Murong, Your Lordship, I have no idea what kind of disease Old Lord caught. I feel really shamed. But that bleeding therapy you mentioned seemed to be helpful in reducing the swelling of Old Lord's body. I suggest Your Lordship might as well invite that doctor here to treat Old Lord. On hearing Medic Chen's words, Sword Murong and the other elders knitted their eyebrows. Others waiting outside the courtyard exclaimed in amazement. Even Medic Chen couldn't treat this pestilence. Was that old woman really the only one who could treat it? However, right at this moment, a guard hurriedly rushed over. Your Lordship, an offshoot mansion sent a message here, saying that people of Ouyang Mansion in Water City went to Lien Village to invite Grandma Medicine. In the room, Cloud Murong was stunned. The frown of Sword Murong and the others creased deeper and their faces went somewhat sullen. It seemed that people of Ouyang Mansion in Water City immediately took action after receiving the news. However, to others' surprise, Cloud Murong was expressionless and made no response, which made Sword Murong and the others become somewhat inexplicably anxious. Especially Sword Murong. He was the one who evicted Grandma Medicine from Murong Mansion by using the authority of his identity of an elder, so at this moment, he was the last person who should talk. However, Cloud Murong, who was the most suitable person to make a decision, chose to keep silent at this moment. Your Lordship, given that there are so many elders infected, maybe we should invite Grandma Medicine back. However, before that person could finish his sentence, Cloud Murong said in a deep voice, Fifth uncle, they've already been evicted from Murong Mansion. Naturally, I can't disobey third uncle and invite her back. Any further discussion on this issue is unnecessary. Let Medic Chen feel your pulse. I'll go check on my father. After saying this, he walked inside the room. Hearing his words, all the others present moved their eyes onto Sword Murong. Sword Murong's face was rather cold and sullen. He was one of those whose family status was the highest in Murong family. Was he supposed to admit his mistake at this moment? If he did that, wouldn't it cause disastrous damage to his dignity and authority? Outside that cottage in the valley, Yunwu was leisurely lying on a shabby rocking chair with her eyes closed, enjoying the tranquil afternoon and waiting for the big bait to come to her on its own account. However, all of a sudden, Yunwu abruptly opened her purple eyes, a piercing and cold look flashing across the bottom of her eyes. She produced a sword as she stood up from the chair, eyes sweeping around the woods. It was still quiet. But that familiar undulation in the air failed to escape her sharp intuition. Killing aura. A kind of well-hidden but blood-curdling killing aura. She sensed extreme danger. She developed this intuition in her last incarnation after killing numerous people and undergoing countless trials. It had never failed her. However, right at this moment, a cold laugh came from amid the woods. In the blink of an eye, a middle-aged man in black appeared on the top of a tree, standing steadily with the tip of his foot on a leaf. Haha. It seems that you little girl are not bad. You detected our existence. Swish. After a breeze through the woods, another black figure weirdly appeared on the top of another tree, haughtily looking down at Yunwu. But it's really a prostitution of our talents to send us both here to deal with this little girl. In his tone, there was arrogance and scorn commonly found in most powerful people. Composed, Yunwu looked at the two assassins who had suddenly turned up, her heart sinking. Because, judging from the undulation she had just detected, these two people probably had broken through into the rank of Grand Assassin. As far as she remembered, even Grand Kung Fu Masters were fairly rare in the whole Zhou Kingdom. But here, two Grand Assassins appeared at the same time. However, when Yunwu saw the special symbols on their clothes, a cold killing aura involuntarily started spreading outwards from her. "You're members of Dragon Clan." Dragon Clan was an organization subordinate to the incumbent queen, so who sent them here was very obvious. It was just that the queen shouldn't have known she was Yunwu from Yun Mansion. Why did she send people to kill her again and again? Hearing her words, 19 lifted his eyebrows and looked at Yunwu with a sneer on his face. "You little girl actually know that we're from Dragon Clan." No wonder Master wanted to. However, he broke off in the middle of a sentence. It was probably because he realized that he was talking too much. "You know too much, little girl. Be cooperative and we'll make your death quick and clean," 18 said in a deep, cold voice. Yunwu curved her lips into a sneer. "Only if you can catch up with me can you give me a quick death." Grandma Medicine and Little Leaf were still in the cottage, so this was by no means the right place to fight. The next second she finished the last word, Yunwu's figure turned into a beam of light and disappeared into the woods in the twinkling of an eye. Faint sneer flashed across the bottom of their eyes when the two Grand Assassins saw this. The next moment, on the treetops, two figures vanished and pursued Yunwu at a weirdly fast speed. Ever since she acquired 7 kinds of element, when Yunwu mobilized wind elemental power, her speed was so fast that even Cloud Murong, who was at tier 9, couldn't catch up with her. However, this time, she could sense that the two figures behind her were approaching her. Damn it! It seemed that those who broke through into another rank were far more powerful than those at the lower rank. In fact, on that day in the Magic Beasts Forest, the reason why Yunwu managed to kill that Grand Kung Fu Master was partly because of the favorable terrain and her powerful ally, Long Qingxie had wounded him before she fought with him. But now, she was facing two Grand Assassins. She was good at killing enemies in a forest, but she was uncertain whether she could kill two Grand Assassins who were just as good at killing enemies in a forest as she was. "It's surprising that you little girl can move so fast with wind elemental power at merely tier 7, 18 leaped down and blocked Yunwu's path." There was a ghost of surprise in his cold voice. Yunwu stopped, holding her sword tightly. Without saying anything, she soundlessly twitched her hand and shot several poisoned silver needles towards 19 who was behind her. "Watch out!" 18's eyes went cold and he intended to move. But at this moment, Yunwu flipped her hands and clasped two flames together. A fire dragon appeared and abruptly pounced on 18. On another side, 19 hurriedly sidestepped those silver needles which then shot into a tree trunk not far away. Cold light gleamed at the ends of those poisoned needles. 19's eyes darkened with a murderous look flashing across. He waved his hand and hurled a bolt of potent qi at her. Yunwu leaped up and abruptly shot towards 19 at full speed. Her speed was daunting and her momentum was wild. The look in 19's icy eyes was somewhat scornful. He produced a sword out of nowhere, mobilized his potent qi and prepared to fight back at Yunwu head-on. "You fledgling little girl. Even I haven't made my move yet. But you dare to come at me." Before his voice died away, a cold light flashed past his eyes. An amazed look abruptly crossed the bottom of his eyes and with that he instantly jerked his upper body back and dodged the blow. The moment she missed, Yunwu frowned. But almost at the same time, she seized this opportunity and rapidly swished towards the depths of the forest. "Shit!" 19 angrily cursed, stretched out his hand and stroked his neck. His eyes became even colder when he saw the blood on his finger. It turned out that Yunwu pretended to launch a frontal attack on him, but the moment she got close enough, she stabbed the dagger in her other hand at his neck. That blow was so quick that 19 could barely dodge it. This was the first time that he had dodged a strike in such a flustered manner. Fury instantly consumed him. Roar! A dragon roar was heard. At this moment, the fire dragon pouncing on 18 was directly cleaved by a single sword slash. When this task was assigned to them, they had been informed that this teenage girl was capable of condensing fire element into elemental beasts. However, they were still somewhat surprised when they saw it with their own eyes. Is it possible that this girl killed the 9 assassins and a warrior sent by Lord Zhou last time? 19 asked in an extremely icy voice, watching in the direction in which Yunwu had fled. No matter she did or not, we've already passed the deadline set by Master. Don't let her escape. Let's get her head and fulfill the task. Let's go. 2 figures giving off furious killing aura rapidly shot in the direction that Yunwu had fled in. However, soon after the 2 people left, the space beside a tree suddenly twisted, out of which Yunwu's figure appeared. It was Space Element. She found that using Space Element was far more strength-consuming than using other kinds of element. And it also didn't last long. Fortunately, the 2 assassins were provoked by her and left without checking carefully. Yunwu didn't have time to hesitate. She immediately rushed towards the cottage in the valley. The arrival of the 2 grand assassins suggested that her whereabouts were exposed, which meant the situation would get more dangerous. If Grandma Medicine and Little Leaf stayed with her, they would be in danger as well. Besides, after the 2 grand assassins failed to find her, they would soon realize that they were tricked. Yunwu returned to the cottage as soon as she could and happened to see that Li Shuyang was walking in her direction with a pheasant. Upon seeing Yunwu, Li Shuyang was stunned, but with that his face briefly flushed. He hurriedly moved his face aside. "Miss Wu, how did you get hurt? And your clothes was torn." Yunwu moved her head aside and saw that the shoulder of her clothes was slit open, revealing her snow-white skin and a small cut. It was caused by the sword light of that assassin. However, given the circumstances, she ignored it. "Brother Shuyang, there's something I have to deal with and I have to leave. I want you to do me a favor. In this village, people preferred to use forms of address like brother, sister, and uncle, etc." On hearing her words, Li Shuyang seemed to have sensed that something unusual had happened. He briefly frowned, but after that he still nodded, saying, "There's no need for you to be so polite, Miss Wu. Just tell me what you need me to do. I promise I'll get it done." In a while, people of Ouyang Mansion in Water City will come here to pick up Grandma Medicine. When they do, I want you to go with her and take care of her. And there's also another thing I need you to help with. She was supposed to do that herself. But, under the circumstances, she didn't really have another choice. After telling him what she needed him to do, Yunwu fished out a small bottle of pills and passed it to him. "There are 3 antidotal pills here. When you show symptoms, each of you 3 should take one." And, however, Yunwu knitted her eyebrows tightly before she could finish her sentence. Damn it. They came back so soon. "Miss Wu, did something happen to you?" Watching Yunwu, who had a deep frown on her face, Li Shuyang asked in concern. Feeling the 2 chi getting closer and closer, Yunwu didn't have time to tell him more details, so she made one last remark. "Remember what I told you. If I don't come back, help me take care of my granny and Little Leaf." On finishing the last word, Yunwu leaped upwards. Meanwhile, she flipped her hands, conjured 2 flames, clasped them together, and with that a fire dragon appeared. Roar, dragon roars were instantly heard in the whole village. At the same time, she clasped her hands again, and with that a blue ice python materialized out of thin air, gelid chi spreading outwards. Hiss, hiss, down below, Li Shuyang widened his eyes in shock on the sight of this scene. Soon after the 2 elemental beasts were summoned, she saw that 2 black figures were rapidly approaching the cottage from the forest. Before the 2 arrived, Yunwu enwrapped herself with wind element, turned into a beam of light and instantaneously disappeared into midair. "You fledgling little girl. How dare you fool us? You're courting death." 2 cold and angry voices were heard, potent chi permeating in all directions. 18 and 19 whipped out their swords and instantly cleaved the fire dragon and the python formed of fire element and water element respectively. What kind of power was that? The noises attracted the attention of all villagers down below and those people outside the village, including Ouyang Ku. They were all surprised when they saw Yun Wu conjure up flames and water which were then condensed into a fire dragon and a ice python. However, their surprise didn't last long, since the two middle-aged men showed up soon. When they saw that the two middle-aged men had the fire dragon and the ice python in a flash, everybody took a shiver, eyes full of amazement. Grand assassins? They were actually grand assassins. The awe-inspiring chi pervading the whole village could almost make people's hearts quiver. However, villagers involuntarily knitted their eyebrows. The two assassins were hostile to Miss Wu. There was also a deep frown on Ouyangke's face. In midair, after they overcame the obstacles in their path, the two grand assassins also turned into two giant beams of light and flashed in Yun Wu's direction. Killing aura lingered in the air after the three figures' disappearance. The Imperial City. General-in-Chief Yun's mansion. The atmosphere in the mansion was somewhat weird this day. Servants and guards were replaced by expressionless soldiers dressed in neat uniforms. In the Imperial City, armies were not allowed to enter without the king's permission. But currently, the whole mansion of General-in-Chief Yun was surrounded by an army. This was really weird. In the living room. At this moment, the room was full of people kneeling on the ground. On the main seat sat an elegant, noble woman. Though she was in her 30s, her well-featured face could still make people's eyes light up. This woman was the incumbent queen, Xue Lu. Behind the queen stood a military officer. There was a hideous, long scar on his emotionless face, which made him look rather ferocious. He scared a lot of people by merely standing there. The venerable master of Yun Mansion, Yun Qi, was standing on the right side of the living room. "My queen, may I ask why you and General Lu brought so many soldiers here and surrounded Yun Mansion?" On his old face was a calm, commanding look. But the discontent in his tone could be distinctly detected. In a graceful manner, Xue Lu picked up the teacup, slowly took a sip and then raised her pretty eyes, looking in the direction of Yun Qi. "Don't be nervous, Venerable Master Yun, I'm just trying to share His Majesty's cares and burdens. You must have heard it. Last night, a kung fu expert attacked the Grand Maester mansion. Grand Maester's son, Nangong Yi, was severely injured. This news had spread through the whole imperial city. Naturally, people of Yun Mansion knew it. The night before, someone sneaked into Grand Maester Mansion and alarmed all people in the mansion when that person was discovered, but that person only took some of Nangong Yi's blood and then fled. Highly talented, Grand Maester's son was a promising candidate for the office of the next Grand Maester, a future leader carrying expectations from a lot of people. The king set great store by this case after hearing the attack. Soldiers were searching the whole city. In merely a day, nervousness and panic rippled through all residents. On this day, the queen led large numbers of troops, intruded into the mansion of General-in-Chief Yun and immediately replaced all guards in it with these soldiers. Outsiders thought that members of the Yun mansion did something wrong. May I ask what kind of relation there is between what Queen has just said and Yun mansion? Does Queen by any chance suspect that the person who attacked Master Nangong in Grand Maester Mansion was a member of Yun mansion? This remark of Venerable Master Yun's was very sharp. Hearing this, Xue Lu smiled blandly. "You're being too sensitive, Venerable Master Yun. Yun Mansion's loyalty to the royal family has lasted so many generations. Who dares to question it? I brought General Li here today because Grand Maester has just practiced divination not long ago, finding that the demonic dragon imprisoned in Yun Mansion would probably try to break out in a day or two. His Majesty is worried that the demonic dragon might cause casualties in Yun Mansion if it breaks out, so he dispatched General Li here to offer assist." To assist? She replaced all guards of Yun Mansion with her soldiers, yet she called it assistance. Incidentally, I heard that the 9th lady of Yun family got seriously wounded during the last royal hunting contest, that she was still in bed. Today, before I came here, I mentioned this to His Majesty. His Majesty was very concerned and sent an royal physician here to check on the 9th lady. Seeming to have suddenly recalled this, Xue Lu said in a graceful, bland tone. But her words sent a brief frown on Yun Qi's face. During the past month or so, the queen had paid many visits to Yun Mansion, inquiring as to Yun Wu's condition in a seemingly casual manner. There'd even been several occasions when she tried to enter Yun Wu's room. Yun Qi declined all her requests, using Yun Wu's severe injury as an excuse. But this time, she brought an royal physician here on the pretext of His Majesty's concern. Clearly she wanted to find out the truth. Was the queen by any chance the one the ninth lady had been trying to evade all this time? Whether it was the case or not, he couldn't let the royal physician into the room. No matter how lifelike the Yun Wu in bed was, the royal physician would surely find flaws once he felt her pulse. I'm grateful for His Majesty's concern, but there's no need for royal physician go through all the trouble. My ninth daughter's almost recovered. It is just that she was born feeble. After the injury, her constitution went even weaker. But I think after a few days' rehabilitation, she would be able to get off bed. Shui Lu gave a faint smile, a deep and unfathomable look in her eyes. Since royal physician is already here, you might as well let him feel her pulse and prescribe some tonics. Upon this, she turned her head aside and gave a glimpse at the old royal physician standing on the side. Having the order, the old royal physician walked forward and said to Yun Qi respectfully, "Would you please have someone lead the way for me, Venerable Master Yun?" It seemed that she made it impossible for Yun Qi to make any excuses. However, right at this moment, "Grandpa, since the Queen and His Majesty care about me so much, you might as well let the royal physician feel my pulse. I'm kind of losing my breath." A weak, faint voice came from outside the door. With a sickly, pale face, supported by a handmaid, Yun Wu slowly walked inside the living room. Wearing a long cape, she paused every 2 steps, gasping for air. Her legs appeared limp, as if a mere breeze could blow her away. Seeing Yun Wu walking in, Yun Wu furrowed his brow. His wife, his daughter Yun Linger and the others, who were still kneeling on the ground because the queen hadn't allowed them to rise, looked at that sickly Yun Wu, disgust and scorn glinting in their eyes. For some reason, this invalid had been the only one that the venerable master favored recently. He even tended her himself when she was ill, which was why other family members were all jealous. The moment Yun Wu walked in, Shui Lu immediately rested her eyes on her, sizing her up. Her gaze was so piercing that it seemed as if it was able to penetrate Yun Wu's bones. Back then at the time when the sorcery power on this continent awoke, Shui Lu dispatched a lot of assassins to the magic beasts forest in the north, including her henchman's Wufeng, but so far, not a single message had been sent back to her. They all disappeared like rocks sank into the ocean. She sent another batch of men to investigate and eventually found that they were all killed. Rumor said that not long ago, a purple-eyed girl in Luo City located near the northern border, who was capable of condensing fire into elemental beasts, made a scene in Murong Mansion. Purple-eyed. That was specific to members of noble sorcery tribe blood. That teenage girl might be the one who awoke sorcery power in the magic beasts forest in the north. And all these happened after Yun Wu got injured and confined to bed. She was that woman's daughter and possessed that blood. Besides, these things seemed too suspicious to be coincidences. She must come and see it herself to verify whether that purple-eyed teenage girl was this Yun Wu or not. She couldn't trust anybody else with this issue. But all her previous attempts failed due to Yun Qi's intervention. This attack on the son of Grand Maester naturally gave her an opportunity. How could she let it slip away? Imperial physician, why aren't you feeling the ninth lady's pulse? Shui Lu asked in a bland tone. Sitting in a chair on the side, Yun Wu cooperatively let the old royal physician feel her pulse, coughing occasionally, her face ghastly pale and lackluster, her eyes unfocused. The living room went quiet. After quite a while, the old royal physician withdrew his hand, turned around and said to Shui Lu respectfully, "My queen, the ninth lady is feeble and suffers from anemia caused by severe injury. She needs a few days to build up her health by rest and by taking nourishing food. Otherwise, the condition might become a chronic complaint." This imperial physician was the best in the imperial palace. He had never made any mistakes in his diagnosis. If he said that this condition was caused by severe injury, then it definitely was. The vigilance in Xue Lu's eyes seemed to be quietly dissolving after she heard the royal physician's words. Since the ninth lady's illness is really so serious, prescribe her some tonics. If there are not enough precious medicinal materials in Yun Mansion, get some from the Imperial Palace. Make sure the ninth lady has everything she needs for rehabilitation. Yes. My queen, the old royal physician nodded. After taking a glimpse at Yun Wu, who was sitting in a chair with face as pale as white paper, Xue Lu stood up from the host's seat and slowly walked towards her. Take good care of yourself. After you recover, come to my palace and walk around. I like you. Saying this, she stretched out her hand and patted on Yun Wu's shoulder. But Yun Wu shivered when the queen patted her, and her face appeared even paler. After that, Xue Lu slightly curved her lips, turned around and glanced at Yun Qi. Venerable Master Yun, General Li will stay in Yun Mansion for the next few days in case the demonic dragon makes trouble. I'll leave you to it. After saying this, she turned around in a noble, graceful manner and slowly walked out of the living room, followed by those handmaids and eunuchs. Have a safe trip home, my queen. Those members of Yun Mansion, who had been kneeling on the ground all along, respectfully saw the queen off with words. Cough. However, the moment Xue Lu stepped out of the living room, Yun Wu started coughing miserably and uncontrollably. The smile on Xue Lu's face went bigger when she heard the cough after walking through the door. In the Ning courtyard. Nobody was allowed to enter this courtyard. Even those soldiers dispatched to Yun Mansion were kept out of it. At this moment, in a room, Yun Qi watched Yun Wu, who was sitting on a chair with a pale face, but was sipping at her tea languidly. Who are you? By no means was this Yun Wu, the one he arranged before. However, if this person was not the Yun Wu he arranged before, who was her? Yun Wu ignored him. After taking a couple of sips of tea, she slowly raised her eyes and looked at Yun Qi. It seems that it doesn't matter who I am. What matters is that the flaw in your arrangements nearly got her into trouble. Naturally, that her she mentioned was Yun Wu. On hearing this, Yun Qi furrowed his forehead. Who are you exactly? Surprisingly, she knew the issue about Yun Wu. Her future husband. This remark was made not in Yun Wu's female voice but in a deep, magnetic male voice. This answer surprised Yun Qi. A man? How was this possible? Yun Wu was a teenage girl. How could a man disguise himself as her? But right at this moment, that person casually threw back the cape, revealing the physique of an adult man. Unexpectedly, he managed to camouflage himself perfectly with only a cape and cheated everybody's eyes. Who was he exactly? No. He just said that, her future husband. Her. Was he referring to Yun Wu? You just said that, her future husband. What did that mean? With a frown, Yun Qi looked at that man with the face of Yun Wu. It meant what you're thinking about right now. Venerable Master Yun, you're very smart, so there's no need for me to explain it to you, that man answered in an unconcerned, cold voice. Long Qingxie stretched out his hand and slowly removed the skin mask along with the hair from his head. Yun Qi was somewhat stunned when he saw that man's handsome features and silver hair. He was a very charming young man, lips seductively curved up. That was not a smile but merely a habitual movement of his, which imparted him with an air of languor and wicked attraction. This man was even more beautiful than women. But Yun Qi instinctively felt that this man was dangerous. Very few people could give him this feeling. However, this man did give him this feeling. Yun Qi was unable to tell how powerful this man was. Was this man's level by any chance higher than his? But he was barely in his early 20s. How was it possible? Where is she? Yun Qi asked, watching Long Qingxie. It had been a month, but there was no news at all, which greatly concerned him. She's fine for the moment, but I'm not. Long Qingxie raised his eyes, staring at Yun Qi. Did you block the entrance to the forbidden area on the hill behind your mansion? When Long Qingxia came back from the border of the Longshu kingdom, he had originally planned to look for Yunwu. But at that time, rumors said that the lord of Luo City adopted her and that he also found his natural mother. When he heard this, he believed that there must be something she had to deal with, because otherwise she would never have agreed to be adopted, given her personality. Afterwards, messages from the scouts he sent out confirmed his speculation. She was saved by an old woman living in a remote village, who also happened to be Lord Murong's natural mother. So she must have gone to Murong Mansion to repay the favor. Knowing that she was not in danger for the moment, he decided to go back to the imperial city and help her get what she needed. The next time when they met, she should have dealt with her matters. However, he could never have expected that some accidents were destined to happen. On hearing his question, Yunqi frowned and glanced at him. Yes, I had some men block it. Is there by any chance you were the one who did that to the entrance? When he found that there was another passage leading to the forbidden area, he immediately had some men block it. There were many pythons and cannibal vines in the forbidden area. If those creatures went through that passage into the outside world, there would be dire consequences. I need to enter the forbidden area. Lend me the key to it, Long Qingxia said directly without beating around the bush. After the last time Yunwu intruded into it, Yunqi specially installed a hidden lock on the gate of the forbidden area. In order to get in, one had to either use the key to unlock the gate or destroy the gate. Currently, there were a large number of soldiers in this mansion. Any noises would surely bring him unnecessary trouble. Don't you think you need to tell me the reason why you want to get in there? The forbidden area is not a place open to everybody, Yunqi said in a manner just as direct. She badly needs some dragon blood. Is this reason good enough? Said Long Qingxia in a casual tone, languidly watching Yunqi. Dragon blood? This answer stunned Yunqi. The demonic dragon imprisoned in the forbidden area had been under the guard of the Yun family for hundreds of years. It had also been decades since Yunqi assumed responsibility, so he had a general idea how powerful that demonic dragon was. Even he himself didn't dare approach that dragon. But this man sounded as if getting some blood from that dragon was as easy as shopping at a market. Was he too self-conceited? Or was he really that powerful? Rest assured. That 1,000-year indenture between the Yun family and the dragon is still valid. That demonic dragon is not powerful enough to break the seal of the indenture yet, Long Qingxia added. His words surprised Yunqi. This man actually knew about the 1,000-year indenture between the Yun family and that demonic dragon. Who on earth are you? Hearing this, Long Qingxia curved his lips into a half-smile. I'm whoever you think I probably am. But, as long as she acknowledges Yun Mansion, nothing will happen to this place. He broke off in the middle of a sentence. Did he mean that once Yun Mansion she disowned Yun Mansion would no longer be in peace? It was late at night. But in this dense forest, two figures were chasing a third one. It had been a full day. Yunwu had almost tried every method she could think of but still couldn't get rid of the two grand assassins. That uncomfortable feeling caused by overconsumption of strength was getting intenser. If it weren't for that her will was strong enough, she would have gone limp and fallen down by now. That damn girl is really good at fleeing. I swear to God I'll break her legs after I catch her. After chasing her for a full day, the two assassins got somewhat annoyed. Two grand assassins actually failed to catch a teenage girl who was merely in early stage of Tier 7 after chasing her for a full day. If word got out about this, would they have the nerve to stay in this profession? And would they have the nerve to show their faces? This was so humiliating. 19 yelled furiously while pursuing her. His voice rippled through the whole forest. Yunwu felt that she was exhausted. She couldn't just keep running. Howls of wolves suddenly came from the distance. There seemed to be a pack of them. Her chi was more powerful than before now, so the two grand assassins would probably detect her even if she tried to hide in this forest. Since I can't escape, I should kill them. Yunwu thought. However, If Yunwoo decided to fight them, she would never suicidally launch an attack on the enemies when she knew very well she was no match for them. If she wanted to kill them, she had to seize the initiative. Even if she couldn't kill them, she would at least make them pay a heavy price. Instantly, Yunwoo clenched her teeth, gathered her strength and flashed towards the source of the wolf howls as fast as she could. Meanwhile, she fished out a book out of the storage space. That was a book on training animals, which she put on the bottom of the storage space and scorned to read. In her sight, most tamed magic beasts were no different from livestock, which she was totally uninterested in. But she recalled those tamed magic beasts that she saw in the training ground located in the forest of the Murong family in the suburb of Luo City. Maybe she could find some kind of secret method of taming magic beasts without erasing their beast nature. But after reading every page of the book, she found that all those beast-taming skills recorded in it were just common ones. Clearly it was impossible to have a magic beast follow orders while it still had its beast nature. Damn it. If Elder White was still in contact with her, maybe she didn't have to flee in such a flurried manner, but since that weird twig entered her body, Elder White had been out of touch all along. Right now, her only option was taking advantage of the beast flock to overpower her enemies. But now even this option was no longer available. Was there really nothing she could do? Did she really had to wait for death? No. Since she came to this exotic world, she had overcome so many hurdles and been through so many trials. Now, even if it was the god of the underworld himself who had been pursuing her, she wouldn't yield without a fight, not to mention 2 grand assassins. Roar. When Yunwoo approached the depths of the forest, a distant roar of a tiger was vaguely heard. A tiger? Hadn't she just heard wolves' roars? However, Yunwoo didn't slow down a little bit, flashing towards the source of the roar as fast as she could. Because she could sense that the 2 assassins were getting closer and closer. The whole sky was shrouded in boundless dark night. It was just that this night was different. An intangible compressive chi was gradually pervading the space above the whole forest. Was it because of the 2 grand assassins? No. It wasn't. Because, under that chi, even those low-level magic beasts on the periphery of the forest seemed to have felt that intangible stress, lowering their bodies. They stayed still even when Yunwoo passed them. This was by no means from the 2 assassins. Originally, Yunwoo barely felt anything. But suddenly, an inexplicable, weird feeling clutched at her heart, and with that she intuitively sensed danger. And what gave her that feeling was in the front. Howl. Another howl was heard. It was more distinct than those previous vague ones. This suggested that Yunwoo was getting closer and closer. Damn girl. I'll break your legs the moment I catch you. A cold, angry yell emanated from a position not far away behind her. Yunwoo knitted her eyebrows tightly together. It seemed that she didn't have any time to hesitate. She had to either fight the 2 grand assassins behind her or keep progressing. Yunwoo always trusted her intuition. At full speed, she shot towards the depths of the forest. No matter what kind of danger was in there, she could definitely drag the 2 assassins into it. An unusual smell of blood wafted across the dark sky. In the pitch-black night, 3 figures just kept going deeper and deeper into the forest. Roar. Howl. From time to time, roars of magic beasts rippled through the forest under the black sky. However, those magic beasts seemed to be not fighting but cooperating, since those roars were let out very regularly. However, this regularity was soon ruined by a figure intruding in the depths of the forest. Yunwoo barely had any time to observe, since the 2 grand assassins were closing in on her. She seemed to have sensed that something blocked her path. Almost instinctively, Yunwoo directly leaped upwards, enveloped herself in wind element and abruptly dashed towards a dark cave in the distance at full speed. Those magic beasts guarding the cave at the entrance didn't have enough time to react. After being stunned for a second, they reacted. Roar, 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 howl, 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 hiss, hiss, guh, guh, guh. Furious roars of magic beasts instantly came from all directions. If it were during daytime, this scene outside the cave could definitely scare people to death. There were tigers, wolves, lions, leopards, snakes, eagles. Both terrestrial beasts and flying beasts congregated outside this cave on this night. Innumerable magic beasts crowded almost the whole depths of this forest, green light gleaming in their eyes. However, when those magic beasts were provoked, another two figures shot over at full speed. Quack! Eagle condor's piercing shrieks were heard. Before the two grand assassins could enter the black cave, a flock of eagle condors flew upwards, letting out furious shrieks that could almost perforate people's eardrum. Wrathful roars of numerous beasts were heard. It was at this moment that 18 and 19 realized what kind of place they had just intruded into. In order to catch up with Yun-Woo, they also didn't observe the surroundings, and they just shot right towards the target as fast as they could when they were getting close. But now, when they saw the scene down below and that more and more flying beasts were coming at them, their faces changed almost at the same time. This seems to be the land of Beast King in this forest. Holding his sword, 18 looked around with a slightly startled look on his face. There was a king of magic beasts in almost every forest, just like there was a ruler in every country in human society. But situation in the territory of magic beasts was not as complex as that of human territory. The Beast King of this forest was the head of all magic beasts living in this forest. Generally speaking, the land of Beast King was surrounded by a lot of magic beasts. Humans, once intruded into the land of Beast King, would be attacked by magic beasts living in this forest. As a result, even if humans wanted to hunt magic beasts, they usually did it on the periphery. Hardly anybody would venture into the depths of the forest. Today, they dared to intrude into the land of Beast King. 19 swallowed hard. That eagle condor leading the pack was at tier 5, and all those behind it were at tier 4 at the lowest. Tier V magic beasts were nothing in their eyes if there were only a small number of them. But currently, there were hundreds, even thousands in front of them. Even a whole team of assassins probably wouldn't be able to handle so many magic beasts, not to mention only the two of them. Retreat. What about the taskmaster assigned to us? You think the girl has a chance of survival after intruding the land of Beast King? Even if she survived, we should leave first and come back after the crisis is resolved. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. The moment their conversation ended, the two figures turned into two rapid blurs and doubled back. Quack. A shriek of eagle condors heard, and with that those flying beasts in the sky instantly pursued the two people. Howl, packs of wolves also howled, and those wolves on the periphery rushed in the direction of the two people. While the tension built outside the cave, Yun-Woo, who had just dashed into the cave, was also having a torturous experience. It was dark all around and she could barely see anything. As a result, she fished out a legendary luminous pearl out of the storage space. It was under the light of the legendary luminous pearl that she had a clear view of this place. A cave? No, it was a black cavern, a big black cavern, a bottomless black cavern. Even with the legendary luminous pearl, she still couldn't see how deep this cavern was. However, she was now standing on a soft, sticky ground. That seemed like some kind of viscous liquid, but Yun-Woo had no idea what that was exactly. She just felt that her shoes were firmly stuck on the ground, and that she couldn't move a single step, as if she was immobilized. While Yun-Woo was trying to pull her feet out of that liquid, a foul wind blew out past her from the depths of the cavern. That was a funky smell of blood. Yun-Woo knitted her eyebrows tightly together. That smell was very disgusting. Hiss, hiss! At this moment, a spotted snake about the thickness of human trunk slowly slithered through the entrance inside the cavern. In its green eerie beast eyes, there was a murderous look like that of human. Hiss! It closed in on Yun-Woo. Yun-Woo's face went slightly pale. This spotted snake was in peak stage of tier 5. That red fire dragon she met in the forbidden area of Yun Mansion aside, this spotted snake was the most powerful one she had seen since she arrived in this strange world. She could distinctly feel that this spotted snake wanted to devour her. She flipped her hands and condensed some fire element. Abruptly, she threw the flames at the viscous liquid, hoping to free her feet from the ground. Hiss, hiss, that spotted snake paused after seeing the flames, but it was not anxious, staring at her with a chilly look in its eyes. Surprisingly, the flames weirdly disappeared without any sounds when they touched the liquid. This scene somewhat horrified Yunwoo. With a deep frown on her face, she watched the transparent, sticky liquid. What the hell was this liquid? Hiss, hiss, as if it possessed modalities like those of human, a faint sneer appeared in the eyes of the spotted snake. Eyeing her like she was a prey in the bag, it flicked its scarlet tongue and moved closer to her bit by bit. Yunwoo's frown creased deeper as her face grew even paler. Because at this moment, she felt powerless again. As if the spotted snake could devour her in a single gulp if it decided to launch an attack on her. Yunwoo was in an exceptionally bad mood due to this kind of feeling. Yunwoo clenched her fists. Anger and unwillingness instantly rose in her. Even if her feet were stuck on the ground, even if she was already exhausted, even if her sore body was warning her, it was not easy for anybody to take her life. With a flip of her hand, a sword appeared out of thin air. However, right at this moment. Ha! Ah! A gust of foul wind blew out from the depths of the cavern. This time, it was accompanied by a scream of a female. The spotted snake was about to pounce on Yunwoo, but when it heard the scream, it ignored Yunwoo, twisted its body and quickly slithered towards the depths of the pitch-dark cavern, as if it had just received some kind of order. Soon after that female scream was heard, those magic beasts outside the cave also started roaring. It turned out that on this night, those magic beasts' roars were in response to the yells of that female in this cavern. However, Yunwoo wouldn't naively assume that it was really a human who let out this female voice from the depths of this cavern. Magic beasts above Tier 6 possessed intelligence, and most intelligent magic beasts could speak. So inside this black cavern was a magic beast the level of which was above Tier 6. Above Tier 6. Currently, her whole body was sore, and she was also suffering from overconsumption of strength and in desperate need of beast blood. If she could get some blood from a magic beast above Tier 6. However, it was just Yunwoo's fond hope. Given her current strength, she probably couldn't even get blood from that spotted snake in peak stage of Tier 5, not to mention from a Tier 6 magic beast. Besides, there must be some kind of connection between those flocks of magic beasts outside and that beast inside this dark cavern. If she did something reckless, there might be unimaginable consequences. Under the circumstances, her best choice was to leave first. However, the viscous liquid beneath her feet. Since fire element didn't work, she started trying other kinds of element. However, none of the 7 kinds of element was able to free her feet from that liquid. Yunwoo's heart sank. Eventually, she established a connection with the soaring dragon scroll in her consciousness sea. However, after quite a while, there was no response from the soaring dragon scroll. Was she really going to be defeated by this puddle of viscous, saliva-like liquid? She was unreconciled, really unreconciled to this situation. However, when Yunwoo was clenching her teeth, a long piece of information suddenly popped into her mind. This was saliva of a 1,000-year-old phoenix. Phoenix saliva was fluid secreted by female phoenixes only when they laid eggs. It had high levels of glutinousness and toxicity. Phoenixes used it to defend themselves against their natural enemies when laying eggs. However, saliva of a phoenix over 1,000 years old could also be alchemized into phoenix saliva pellets, which could detoxify all kinds of poisons and thus was extremely precious. People could only come by this kind of thing with luck, but not by searching for it. After reading the message in her mind, Yunwoo lowered her head with a rather surprised look, watching the sticky liquid beneath her feet. This was saliva of a 1,000-year-old phoenix. So it was not some Tier 6 magic beast but a phoenix in this cavern. And it was over 1,000 years old. Was this possible? Ah! At this moment, another piercing, pained scream came from the depths of the cavern. Meanwhile, smell of blood was carried out by a gust of wind. Yunwoo broke out in a sweat after hearing the scream. Would she by any chance encounter another beast suffering from dystocia? She believed she should figure out a way to free herself from this liquid first. Soaring Dragon Scroll, can you help me out? Yunwoo asked the Soaring Dragon Scroll in her mind. After a while, another piece of information appeared in her mind, the primal fire. Phoenix saliva could only be melted with the primal fire. After being informed of this message, Yunwoo didn't know whether she should feel delighted or sad. Back then when she was in the magma pool in the forbidden area, she had swallowed the primal fire and absorbed it. Now it was in her consciousness space along with the fire dragon pearl. However, the primal fire had been staying in there quietly all along after she obtained it. It seemed that there was no way to guide it out of her body and utilize it. Realizing that she had a rare treasure but could only watch it from far away, Yunwoo pulled a wry face. However, right at this moment, as if from outer space, a deafening, furious roar suddenly came. Yunwoo was nearly knocked out. Under the dark sky, the whole forest seemed to be quaking. On hearing that roar, flocks of magic beasts outside the dark cavern quivered but soon started wriggling around restlessly. For some reason, Yunwoo's heart lurched when she heard the roar, surprise gleaming in her eyes. That roar sounded so familiar. That was a dragon roar. However, unlike the kind of angry roar let out by the red fire dragon, this roar contained some kind of mysterious power in it, as if the ground was quaking because of it. How high was the level of the magic beast that let out this roar? Yunwoo didn't know, but judging by the momentum of it, this magic beast was definitely more powerful than that red fire dragon. Ah! After that dragon roar was heard, the female voice coming from the depths of the dark cavern became even shriller, as if the mood of the creature inside was affected. In modern times, both dragons and phoenixes were mythological creatures that only existed in legends. Yunwoo had never expected that these two kinds of creatures would appear at the same time on this night. She could tell from the momentum of the roar that the dragon came with evil intent. Given that her feet were stuck on the ground in the nest of a phoenix, she was in a very unfavorable situation. Soaring Dragon Scroll, what do I have to do to guide the primal fire out of my body? Yunwoo asked again. However, it gave her no other response. It made sense. The Soaring Dragon Scroll was merely a spiritual scroll in which information about everything in this world was documented. It was not an intelligent creature. Naturally, it couldn't answer her every question. Oh! That annoying, thick-bearded door god. He's the door guard of the Hundun Palace. He must know it. Yunwoo gathered her powers of concentration and with that her spirit entered her consciousness space. Thick-bearded guy, her voice resounded around the spacious place. But there was no response to her impolite call. Uncle Door God, would you mind putting your arrogance aside for a moment and show just a little respect for my feelings? Yunwoo had always wanted to pull the beard of that haughty door god off his lips. But now, she needed his help, so she didn't dare yell at him like she did the last time she came here. She waited for a little while longer. When Yunwoo was running out of her patience and decided to go straight to the depths of the consciousness space, a deep, dignified and impatient voice came from the distance. You think your feelings are worth anything? This was exactly what Yunwoo said to Yunqi back then. How dare this damn thick-bearded man talk back to her with her previous words? However, Yunwoo scorned to argue with him. Okay, they're worthless. But you're a door god who lives in a noble, superior and celestial place, and you don't need money, so it's fine if they're worthless. Tell me, what do I have to do to get that primal fire out of my body? The figure of that thick-bearded man was still nowhere to be seen in the space. Fortunately, that thick-bearded door god seemed to be pleased by her words. That deep, dignified voice slowly came, with your body as a carrier, use your spiritual power to control it. But I have to warn you, little girl. The primal fire is the origin of all fire. You're not powerful enough to control it yet. Besides, given your current physical condition, it's not the right time to guide it out of your body. There's a very high risk that you'll get yourself killed during the process. And then the thick-bearded door god's voice disappeared again. Her body. That was right. She had been trying to revive her body all along. But the current situation gave her no choice. If she didn't do anything and just stood there, she would still be killed after that dragon came here or that phoenix inside the cavern finished laying eggs. So she might as well risk it. Besides, she frequently told herself that she was the one who was in control of her destiny, not God. She had already daringly swallowed the primal fire. Now she just wanted to guide it out of the body to put it to use. She didn't believe that this would kill her. Because of that thick-bearded door god's warning, Yunwoo was very cautious with her every move. With her body as a carrier, she exerted her spiritual power on the primal fire enveloping the fire dragon pearl and guided a third of it to her right hand. Outside the dark cavern. Almost all magic beasts were fully alert, guarding the dark cavern. At this moment, numerous magic beasts lurked in the dark, vigilantly staring at the black sky, as if they were waiting for something to come. Inside the cavern. As Yunwoo drew the primal fire out of her body bit by bit, the temperature in the dark cavern was rising rapidly. Soon, it became so hot in the cavern that it seemed as if things were about to combust spontaneously. Hot. Painful. The heat was so unbearable that Yunwoo felt as if her soul was about to catch fire. However, compared with the agony she endured when she swallowed the primal fire or when she was trying to absorb the 7 elemental powers, this pain was within tolerance. Besides, she merely extracted a third of the primal fire. Hiss, hiss, but as the temperature increased, that spotted snake was lured out of the depths of the cavern. The spotted snake had just slithered out of the dark when it was greeted with blazing heat and drew back immediately. Hiss. The hisses it let out sounded somewhat angry. At this moment, the pain shrieks coming from the depths of the dark cavern was becoming louder and more frequent. Was the egg about to be laid? For some reason, a sudden pang of horror clutched at Yunwoo's heart when she heard the piercing, pained scream and she was distracted. Zh. The skin of her shoulder spat and with that, as if someone had just pressed a red-hot branding iron on her, a weird mark which looked like the shape of a flame appeared on her shoulder. The pain was sharp. Yunwoo broke out in a cold sweat but didn't dare to be distracted again, though she was in burning pain. Bit by bit, she guided the primal fire through her right arm and gathered it in her right palm. When the primal fire popped out of her palm, the heat was so intolerable that she felt as if all the water in her body instantly evaporated, which almost knocked her out, since she was already exhausted. This fire was so powerful. That was just a tiny, magenta flame, which was only 1/3 of the primal fire, but the power it contained was so great that even Yunwoo felt horrified. She seemed to have partially understood why it was called the primal fire. It was actually the origin of all fire in this world. If somebody managed to harness the energy it contained, he or she would be able to burn everything in the world. Burn everything in the world? How much energy would it take? Yunwoo didn't know why she had this kind of feeling, but she just instinctively knew it. However, right at this moment, a sudden wave of fear swept over Yunwoo, as if a sharp dagger was about to stab into her back. What was that? Yunwoo turned her head back and looked around the cavern. When she saw those unknown black things all over the wall wriggling, an ominous premonition rose in her. Rustle. A chilling rustling giving people goosebumps was heard, as if something was sliding across sand. What was that? Yunwoo really didn't know, but she had an intuition that those things would eat every single bit of her if she touched them. However, seemingly afraid of the saliva of a 1,000-year-old phoenix on the ground, those black things were merely wriggling on the wall, as if they were waiting for Yunwoo to dissolve the phoenix saliva. Waiting for her to dissolve the phoenix saliva? Yes, for some inexplicable reason, Yunwoo had this strange feeling. These damn things were really cunning, she thought. It was very likely that they would launch an attack on her the moment she dissolved the phoenix saliva. Thinking of this, Yunwoo wavered between dissolving it and standing by. Roar, judging from the roar, that dragon seemed to be getting closer and closer. The roar made her eardrums ache and her blood vessels dilate. Ah! The pained screams from the depths of the cavern were also getting louder and more frequent. Meanwhile, those magic beasts outside also became excited, roaring all at once. Clash. Sounds of a struggle and weapons clashing together were heard. Sounds of a struggle. No. If the dragon had come here, there shouldn't be sounds of weapons clashing together. Humans. Judging by the sounds, there were plenty of people out there. It was merely a phoenix laying eggs. Why did so many people come here? A dragon coming here was understandable. What did these humans come here for? It seemed that they were really not afraid of death. What Yunwu didn't know was that on this Shenzhou continent, dragons and phoenixes were divine species of the same status. In human society, many people tended to compare an emperor to a dragon, and an empress to a phoenix. But in fact, dragons represented water and were hailed divine beasts of water, while phoenixes represented the sun and were hailed divine beasts of fire. Technically, phoenixes were of nobler blood than dragons. However, for some reason, the phoenix was on the verge of extinction in the mortal realm. If someone took advantage of this opportunity, obtained a phoenix egg, hatched it and tamed the phoenix, then they would be able to conquer the world with its power. Humans were greedy by nature, which was why it was actually not surprising that these people risked coming here scrambling for it. As regards Yunwu, she came here because some people were trying to kill her. She didn't even know what kind of place she was in. However, maybe she was lucky, and maybe she was unlucky. Anyway, she accidentally intruded into a nest of a phoenix. Now, she was facing a dilemma. Under the circumstances, she didn't have time to think it through, because she saw that those black things on the wall were converging on one spot and stretched towards her bit by bit in midair. The only way out was to dissolve the phoenix saliva beneath her feet and then immediately jumped into that deep pit. Exerting her spiritual power on the fire above her palm, Yunwu moved it towards the viscous phoenix saliva beneath her feet. In order not to burn her own feet by accident, she did it with great caution. However, it was highly strength-consuming and spiritual power-consuming to manipulate the fire. After only a short while, Yunwu started panting for breath, beads of sweat the size of beans dropping down from her forehead, her body in stabbing pain. She watched as the phoenix saliva gradually softened under the heat of the fire and eventually turned into a puddle of water. Yunwu withdrew the fire, clenched her teeth and leaped squarely down the pit that diagonally descended. The moment she leaped down the pit, out of the corner of her eye, she saw that those black things on the wall pounced and landed on her previous position. Rustlings were heard, as if they were gnawing away at the ground. What were those things exactly? Yunwu felt chills down her spine. If she had been a little slower, would she have been eaten by those things? However, as she descended along the wall of the pit, what she saw brought her heart to her mouth instantly. It turned out that there was a pool of magma at the bottom of that pit. Except for some rocks floating on the surface, there was nothing for her to stand on. If common people came here, they would surely be suffocated, if not roasted, by the blazing air. That spotted snake coiled up at the entrance, seeming to be on guard. The moment it saw Yunwu landed, the spotted snake opened its giant, hideous fanged mouth and abruptly came at her. Damn it! Yunwu dodged the attack almost instinctively and then leaped onto a floating rock in the magma pool. On her sudden landing, the rock jerked, magma splashing. A couple of droplets of magma splattered across the spotted snake that was hurtling towards her. Its skin spat, giving off smell of burning flesh, and it abruptly drew back. The heat of the magma was undoubtedly terrifying. After regaining her footing, Yunwu was also somewhat amazed. The temperature of the magma in this pool was several times higher than that of the magma in the pool in that forbidden area where that red fire dragon lived. Yunwu felt as if her body was being roasted, even if she was merely standing above the surface of the magma. However, to her surprise, her whole right hand didn't feel the heat at all, as if the residual primal fire in her blood was enough to counteract the scorching heat of the magma. But right at this moment. Ah! A shrill, Pained yells suddenly came from the depths of a cave near the magma pool. Hiss. Somewhat restless, that spotted snake frighteningly stared at Yunwoo, letting out seemingly threatening hisses. It seemed to be warning her that she was not allowed to go inside. Originally, Yunwoo entered the cavern by accident and then jumped into that pit because she had no other choice. She truly didn't want anything from that phoenix. But now, out of curiosity, she decided to go in there and find out what this legendary creature, which had drawn so many people here, looked like. Ignoring that spotted snake, Yunwoo tapped on the floating rock with the tip of her foot and swiftly leaped onto another rock. In this way, she headed for the depths of the cavern. What did people call phoenixes? Birds bathing with fire. When Yunwoo landed on a floating rock and saw that fiery red phoenix soaking in magma with flames all over its body, she couldn't help feeling somewhat excited. It was so dignified, so beautiful. Yes. It was majestic and beautiful. That majesty was in its blood, and that beauty was beyond words. Suddenly, the whole cavern started quaking. Roar, as if from outside the cavern, a dragon roar came. The whole cavern was quaking, along with the magma in the pool. Yunwoo was still in amazement, but because of the quaking of the cavern, she was losing her footing. Almost out of instincts, Yunwoo immediately clenched her teeth, enveloped herself with space element and disappeared out of thin air. Right at this moment. Ah! The phoenix in magma raised its head and squeaked out a shrill cry, magma splashing around. Finally, a fiery red egg was laid. Phoenix, how dare you gave birth to its child? At this moment, a gruff loud voice full of anger abruptly came from the entrance of the cavern. It took almost merely an instant for it to travel such a long distance. In the blink of an eye, a giant black dragon stormed over with furiously widened eyes. Black dragon, don't go too far. You've been pursuing me since I was in the dragon phoenix realm. Now I'm in the mortal realm. What else do you want? The female voice said with suppressed anger. You know exactly what I want. Hand over that bastard child to me. No way. Well, then. You leave me no choice. Roar. With a roar, potent chi instantly pervaded the cavern, and with that the black dragon rapidly hurtled towards the phoenix in magma. The flames on the phoenix instantly flared up. It raised its head, let out a squeak and stormed towards the black dragon head-on. The dragon was mighty and aggressive, while the phoenix, however, had an air of majesty about it, like that of a goddess. However. Bang, bang. Boom. Boom. Two potent powers clashed together, quaking the whole cavern. Tightly clenching her teeth, Yunwoo struggled to shield herself with space element. If she showed herself, there was no doubt she would become a hapless victim of that power the moment she did it. But all of a sudden, Yunwoo felt the rock beneath her feet start quivering. She lowered her head, flicked a look at it, and was somewhat terrified. The floating rock broke apart, magma splashing around. Her whole body, no, all the magma and floating rocks in the pool instantly started churning. And the cause of this was the phoenix and the dragon. Yunwoo's face went ghastly pale. Heedless of other concerns, she immediately gave up the space element shelter, enwrapped herself with wind element and leaped upwards. Unlike that occasion when she was in the forbidden area, if she got entangled in this magma, she probably would be melted completely without a single piece of her body left. A human. How dare this human intrude in this place? You're courting death. The moment the black dragon finished the last word, it hurled a bolt of fierce chi at Yunwoo. Damn it! Yunwoo cursed in a low voice and dodged aside in a flustered manner. Fortunately, the black dragon's target seemed to be that egg the phoenix had just laid, and it had nothing but scorn for Yunwoo, who was merely a human. Roar, taking advantage of the moment when the phoenix was distracted, the dragon created a tornado of energy and swirled the magma upwards. Realizing what the dragon was trying to do, the phoenix squeaked furiously and erupted lances of flame towards the enemy. No human could survive the power undulation generated by a fight between two divine beasts. Given her over-fatigued body, Yunwoo certainly didn't stand a chance. Under the power, she felt as if somebody was dismembering her with a saber and a saw. The pain was so unbearable that she nearly spat blood. This was an opportunity for her, so she immediately swished towards the entrance of the cavern. However, a red sphere suddenly flew over to her. As if out of instincts, she stretched out her hand and caught it. When Yunwoo saw what that thing in her hand really was, she was somewhat stunned. An egg? That was an egg about the size of a football, but it was giving off a mysterious, black chi. It felt both a little hot and a little cold, which was very weird. What was going on? Wasn't this the egg that the phoenix had just laid? Why did it suddenly fly to her? Did this egg by any chance have consciousness? Did it take to her at first sight and decide to follow her? But clearly, she thought too much. When Yunwoo saw that a whirl of magma driven by the tornado was coming squarely at her with a wave of scorching heat, her face suddenly turned colorless. Fuck! She nearly blurted out a four-letter word. Instinctively hugging that egg tight, she swished towards the outside of the pit as fast as she could. My baby! A thundering bellow of rage rippled through the cavern like furious tides, everything in the cavern shaking violently. The moment Yunwoo flashed out of the pit, she abruptly gasped in horror at the sight in front of her, eyes wide open. Those black, wriggling creatures almost occupied the whole entrance of the cavern. Some of those people who were fighting outside the cavern intruded inside and accidentally touched those black creatures crawling all over the wall and the ground. Rustle! With a rustle, before they could scream, those creatures devoured them, not leaving a single bit. The whole entrance of the cavern was blocked by those black creatures. She could distinctly feel that the scorching heat was getting closer and closer from the depths of the cavern, indicating that the energy undulation generated by the fight between the phoenix and the dragon was spreading outwards. If she stayed here, she would surely be dead in a short while. God damn it! You got me into serious trouble. There was no time for her to do more thinking. Yunwoo hurriedly exerted her spiritual power on the 1/3 of the primal fire that she had withdrawn, guided it through her arm, and with that a flame popped out of her right palm. With facilitation of fire elemental power, the primal fire flared up, and with that Yunwoo hurled it towards the ground. Rustle! On contact with the fire, those black creatures instantaneously ignited. Feeling that she was depleting her spiritual power, Yunwoo gathered all her strength, enveloped herself in fire element and flashed along the path of fire out of the cavern. On getting out of it, she focused her attention on the primal fire burning among those black creatures and withdrew it. Taking advantage of the chaotic fight, she quickly fled in a direction where nobody was ahead. She felt that she was about to collapse. After she arrived in this exotic world, this was the first time that she had exhausted both strength and spiritual power. There was sharp pain all over her. But she mustn't stop. She just kept rushing forward, as if with her formidable willpower. Sounds of the fight between those people and between the dragon and the phoenix, as well as the roars of rage let out by the two mythological creatures, could still be heard. Clearly, this was not going to be a peaceful night in this forest. How long have I been running? Yunwoo had no idea. She just knew that when walking in a wood, she suddenly missed her footing and started falling down. What is this place? Yunwoo also didn't know, because there was no light at all. It was pitch dark around and she couldn't see anything, but she knew she was still falling. She could feel it. It felt as though she was falling in a bottomless pit. Currently, Yunwoo didn't even have enough strength to move her fingers. Due to overconsumption of strength and lack of beast blood supplement, waves of tearing pain were rushing through her every nerve. She was exhausted and all she wanted to do was close her eyes and have a sleep. And she did that. Or, because of that egg in her arms, the state of which had been alternating between hot and cold, her body inexplicably descended into intense sleepiness. After a short while, Yunwoo flaked out. The moment she fell asleep, that red egg in her arms suddenly started shining at regular intervals as its temperature alternated between high and low. Right at this moment, some green strips like willow twigs stretched out of Yunwoo's abdomen, looking very weird. And then, with a swish, those strips shot towards the wall and adhered to it. Yunwoo's body instantly stopped falling, hanging in mid-air in this pitch-dark pit, her abdomen facing upwards. Just like this, the red egg in her arms quietly waited to hatch, absorbing the residual primal fire in her right arm bit by bit. Yunwoo stayed in deep sleep one day after another. Soon, a month passed by and she still didn't wake up. Because of her missing, some secret organization threw the Luo city into chaos. For the same reason, magic beasts launched an unprecedented mass attack on the border. However, this girl sleeping in this dark pit was totally unaware of any of this. Everything stayed the same around her. An extra half a month passed. The pitch-dark pit was suddenly lit by a red light accompanied by scorching heat. Surprisingly, those willow twigs adhering to the walls had grown a lot bigger, looking exuberant and vigorous. Yunwoo was no longer hanging but lying on those willow twigs. Crack! 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 The sounds of something cracking were heard. Yunwoo, who had been asleep all along, was waken up by those cracks coming from beside her ears. It's so hot. Yunwoo knitted her eyebrows together the moment she woke up, feeling miserably hot, as if she was in an oven. Crack! Crack! She abruptly opened her eyes and a purple light flashed across her purple pupils. Yunwoo was unaware of this. She hadn't moved for so long that she felt stiff all over, and her joints clicked as she sat up. She looked downwards and then upwards, but all she saw was darkness. When she realized the situation she was in, she was stunned. What the hell is this place? Suddenly, what had happened before she fell down flashed across her mind. Was this pit that she had fallen into literally bottomless? Just as its name implied, a bottomless pit had no bottom, and anyone fell into it would keep falling downwards forever. Didn't the god of hard luck favor her too much? Crack! Crack! While Yunwoo was speechless with resignation, the sounds of eggshell cracking were heard again. Yunwoo instantly lowered her eyes onto the red egg in her arms. On the sight of it, Yunwoo was taken aback. The egg, which was originally about the size of a football, had grown to over twice its original size. It was shining intermittently, the color of the light alternating between red and black, which imparted an thick air of mystery to it. She merely had a sleep, yet it grew so much bigger. Crack, crack. For some inexplicable reason, sounds of eggshell cracking became more frequent, as if the little creature inside the egg was about to hatch out. It was said that it took a hen 21 days to hatch her eggs, but this phoenix egg hatched after merely a sleep of hers? Wasn't it too easy to hatch a divine beast's egg? However, what Yunwoo didn't know was that her sleep lasted a month and a half. The world outside had descended into chaos long ago. Crack! All of a sudden, with a crisp sound, a crack appeared in the eggshell and soon stretched and branched. Yunwoo couldn't help staring squarely at it out of curiosity. Since it was a phoenix egg, the creature coming out of it would naturally be a phoenix. Its mother was very mighty and beautiful, so this little thing must also be gorgeous. However, sneeze! A dazzling red light abruptly burst through the eggshell and with that fiery red flames instantly pervaded the pit. The fire was fierce with awe-inspiring momentum. Everything happened so fast. When the flames died down, everything around her was badly burnt and blackened. Yunwoo, who was still in amazement, was the most intrusive being in this scene. She was pitch black from head to toe, her burnt hair smoking, as if she had just crawled out of a dirty stove. At this moment, a chubby little head slowly craned out of the eggshell which had only its lower half left. What was that? After a moment's perplexity, Yunwoo collected herself, but before she could get angry, the creature inside the eggshell stunned her again. Like human, it had 2 hands, 2 feet, a pair of eyes, a pair of ears and a nose, but it was different from human. Its little head was bald, and it had red, soft feathers on its plump body. Its eyes were big and round, very cute, but it had two little fangs revealed outside its small, red mouth, which made it look like a small zombie. It appeared somewhat ferocious but also very adorable. However, this wasn't exactly what a phoenix was supposed to look like, was it? After craning out of the eggshell, the little thing curiously swept its large, cut eyes around in a cute manner. It seemed to be watching something, but it also seemed to be looking for something. When it raised its head and saw the pitch-black Yunwu in front of it, it tilted its little head aside, as if thinking about something. But soon, it furrowed its brow, a seemingly disgusted look glinting in its eyes. Ugly. It uttered an indistinct word in an babyish voice. Yunwu had never expected that a half-human little freak would be disgusted by her someday. She was a little annoyed. This little thing nearly roasted her when it was still in the egg, and the first thing it told her after it hatched out was that she was ugly. She stretched out her hand, grabbed its chubby little leg in the eggshell and lifted it up. You little fatty. You are the ugly one. Ugly, ugly. It waved its claws and grimaced at her, revealing two fangs. Yunwu goggled at the little fatty about the size of a puppy, saying angrily, You are ugly. You whole family are ugly guys. Damn little fatty. I'll beat you. It kept swinging its little hands but was unable to reach Yunwu, its large round eyes filled with tears. Ugly. You still won't stop. Yunwu glared at it. What she was unaware of was that her face was as black as the back of a wok, so it was very natural that this little thing felt she was ugly. 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 Yunwu fixed the little thing in her hand with a stare, feeling extremely depressed. Eventually, she realized that she was kind of being too childish. Why am I taking this little thing's words so seriously? She loosened its grip and dropped it into the lower half of the eggshell. Stupid little fatty. I'm too busy to argue with you, she murmured. Yunwu moved the eggshell aside, stood up and stretched out a little, finding that both her strength and spiritual power had been fully restored. So she decided to figure out a way to get out of this place. However, it was at this moment that she discovered that those willow twigs were rooted in her waist. After scanning her body with spiritual power, she gasped in amazement. It turned out that it was the branch in her abdomen from which those twigs sprouted. That branch rooted in her flesh had turned into a seed sprouting a lot of green shoots, which took root near her dantian and was growing as the golden red pearl spun. What was that exactly? These twigs had sprouted from her flesh. Would she be occupied by it and become a tree someday? The more she thought about it, the more afraid she felt. She couldn't help wondering whether there was a way to extract that weird branch out of her. If she were still in her last incarnation, maybe she could extract it with a surgical operation, but in this exotic world, who else could perform a surgical operation like that apart from herself? However, before that, she believed she had better figure out a way to get out of here first. While Yun was contemplating with a frown on her face, that chubby little thing in the eggshell behind her took a few sniffs around, tilted its head and looked up at her, as if contemplating as well. It knitted its little eyebrows and then released them. After quite a while, it crawled out of the eggshell clumsily, toddled on its little plump legs to Yunwu's feet, stretched out its claws and pulled her pant leg. Yunwu lowered her head. When she saw that little creature who had just told her she was ugly, she knitted her willow leaf-shaped eyebrows and gave it a gentle kick, as if she disliked it. Go play. Leave me alone. That chubby little thing lost its footing due to that gentle kick and rolled away. It almost fell off the willow twigs. Yunwu flicked a glimpse at it. Seeing that it was okay, she ignored it. Racking her brains, she wondered how she could get out of this pit. She remembered that she had been falling for a very long time after she fell into this bottomless pit, which meant that this place was probably very deep underground. How long would it take her to climb out of this pit? Would she make it? However, at this moment, she felt that something was pulling her pant leg again. Lowering her head, she saw the little creature looking up at her with big, liquid eyes. The expression on its face was different from the previous disgusted one. This time, it stared at her piteously. Mom! Yunwoo nearly threw up on hearing the word. Mom? What was wrong with this chubby little thing? Did it really think she and it were of the same species? It called her mom. Listen, little fatty. I'm not your mother. Don't call me that. Upon these words, Yunwoo raised her foot, planning to get it off her pant leg. But it tightly grabbed her pant leg with its little claws, clamping its chubby short legs on her feet. Mom! It called her again in a piteous babyish voice, excitedly rubbing its delicate little face against her shank, as if it finally managed to find its mother. It really thought she was its mother. Yunwoo was briefly transfixed with embarrassment. Then she goggled at the chubby little thing clinging to her feet, the corner of her lips twitching. It kept rubbing its face against her shank. Finally, Yunwoo couldn't help bending over and pulling it off her foot, glaring at it. Little fatty, I told you I'm not your mother. However, before Yunwoo could finish her sentence, that little creature in her hands slid along her arm to her chest like a loach. Mom! It exultantly clung to her neck and rubbed its face against her. Yunwoo was speechless with embarrassment, her lips twitching violently. She tried to pull it off her neck, but its grip was so tight that she nearly suffocated. Resigned, Yunwoo had to soften her tone and tried to coax it into coming down. But that little guy yielded to neither the carrot nor the stick. It just kept rubbing against her neck. It was not until it tired after quite a while that it gave up and climbed to the top of her head, gripping onto her hair with its little claws. No matter how hard Yunwoo tried, it refused to come down. Yunwoo was depressed and resigned. However, when Yunwoo saw the liquid in the eggshell, all her depression dissolved instantly. Phoenix saliva. Wasn't that transparent, viscous liquid saliva of a 1,000-year-old phoenix that she had seen in that cavern? Though it was of high levels of stickiness and toxicity, it was very precious, since it could be used to make phoenix saliva pellets that could detoxify any poison. Maybe it would prove useful someday. I should keep it. After collecting that phoenix saliva with great caution, Yunwoo put it into her storage space along with the eggshell. Then she gave a giggle, as if perfectly content. But the little guy on her head watched her in surprise as she did this. Did its mom like its pee very much? She should have told it earlier. If she really liked that, it would give her more in the future. However, if Yunwoo knew that the phoenix saliva, which all people deemed extremely precious, and which she regarded as treasure, was merely its urine, she would no doubt spit blood. Another full day passed. Inside the bottomless pit. A figure, with that chubby reek, Yunwoo gave it this name in commemoration of the name it gave her, ugly, on her head, was climbing upwards inch by inch, sweating buckets. You damn reek, stop chewing my hair. I'll throw you down if you don't. After climbing for a full day, she was starving, but she still couldn't see the entrance of this dark pit. How much longer it would take her to climb out of it remained unknown. She had been depressed all along, but that chubby reek on her head kept chewing her hair. It was not actually eating the hair, but when it pulled her hair out of its mouth, it was saliva-soaked, sticky and very disgusting. At this moment, she heard it chewing her hair again, making tisk sounds, as if the hair was very delicious. Yunwoo couldn't help stretching out her hand and pulling her sticky hair out of its mouth. As if its food was snatched, Reek's lips clamped, its big eyes filled with tears, which made a piteous sight. Mom! Depressed and resigned, Yunwoo clenched her teeth, patted on its bald little head and said in an affectedly threatening tone, "If you call me that again, I'll throw you down." Lips clamped, big eyes filled with tears, Reek withdrew its claws, looking aggrieved and pitiful. Afraid. Upon this, as if trying to fawn on her, it started rubbing its plump face against the top of her head, which made it an adorable sight. You feel afraid? Good. Behave yourself or else I'll throw you down. Knowing that it was afraid, Yunwoo was in a slightly better mood and resumed climbing. However, before long, Tisk, tisk. Sounds of Reek's chewing came from the top of her head again. That little guy started gnawing at her hair. Reek! Don't you think that's disgusting? Yunwoo pulled the hair out of its mouth again. The stickiness of the hair made her feel resigned and speechless. On hearing the rebuke, Reek instantly became obedient again. However, before long, it started again. After a while, Yunwoo felt that her scalp was sticky and wet all over, which terribly disgusted her. But that little thing enjoyed it very much. At first, after Yunwoo reprimanded it, it felt afraid and behaved itself for a while, but now it gnawed on her hair freely and happily. Every time Yunwoo pulled the hair out of its mouth, it started chewing hair on the other side. The more frequently she tried to stop it, the more happily it continued. Eventually, Yunwoo gave up and didn't even bother yelling at it. Chew on it. Chew on it. Chew on it as long as it wanted. The hair was so dirty. If it liked chewing on it so much, let the hair disgusted it to death. Depressed as Yunwoo was, she still kept climbing upwards with great efforts. In fact, she merely intruded into the nest of a phoenix by accident during her fleeing from enemies, but for some inexplicable reason she came by this red egg, out of which this chubby weird creature hatched. She directly became a wet nurse. Was her life easy? Now, it turned out this little guy had such a weird addiction of chewing on people's hair, which made her feel speechless, resigned and embarrassed. After she climbed out of this pit, the first thing she would do was return it to its mother. Yunwoo climbed and climbed. Finally, to her delight, she vaguely felt that the exit was close. But all of a sudden... Bomb! A loud explosion was heard and the pit started quaking violently. Ah! Yunwoo cried out in alarm. The corner of rock standing out from the inside of the pit loosened, and with that she instantaneously started falling down like a kite without the restriction of a string. When she collected herself, Yunwoo blurted out a four-letter word, fuck. Which asshole did this? She pressed her bracer made of silk spun by golden silkworm against the inside of the pit to steady herself but failed. The falling was unstoppable. Was she by any chance destined to spend the rest of her life in this bottomless pit? However, right at this moment, she felt that her hair was given a sharp pull. The pain was so unbearable that Yunwoo grimaced and nearly blurted out curses. But her falling instantly stopped at the same moment. It turned out that the little thing lying prostrate on her head was holding on to her hair with its claws, arduously flapping its little wings on its back. But Yunwoo was an adult human being, and it seemed to have exerted all its strength but still could barely stop her from falling down. Heavy. It laboriously uttered a word in an babyish voice. Yunwoo couldn't see it but could feel that it was holding on to her hair, sparing no strength. She could also picture how ridiculous she currently looked hanging in midair. However, taking advantage of this opportunity, she focused her attention on the willow twigs wrapped around her thin waist, exerted her spiritual power and stretched those twigs out, which then firmly adhered to the inside of the pit. Yunwoo was hanging in the middle of those willow twigs like a spider on its web. She could control those willow twigs sprouting from her waist with her spiritual power, as if they were part of her, which was very strange. She didn't know whether this was a good thing or a bad thing. All right, we're safe now. You may release your grip. You nearly plucked my hair out. After steadying herself, Yunwoo hurriedly stretched out her hand and took that little thing off her head. If it kept pulling so hard, her hair might actually be plucked out. As if very tired, that little thing withdrew its little wings and tamely let her hold it in her hands. It looked at Yunwoo with its big, round eyes, and then rubbed its delicate cheeks against her palms, saying, "Mom." Tired. After that, like a loach, it crawled along her arm to her chest. And then boldly wormed its way into her clothes and settled itself comfortably in there. Before long, faint snores came from her chest. The expression on Yunwoo's face was a mixture of resignation and speechlessness. Did this little guy really regard her as its mother? Bomb! A distant sound of the ground quaking was vaguely heard. Yunwoo furrowed her brow. What is going on out there exactly? There was a magic beasts forest called Maple Ridge between the Zhou Kingdom and the Longshu Kingdom. This Maple Ridge was an out-of-the-way place on the border between the two kingdoms. However, the rear of the Maple Ridge bordered on the depths of the magic beasts forest in the north, so magic beasts in this forest were all high-level ones. There was even a rumor saying that a phoenix suddenly materialized in that forest a few years ago, and all humans had been forbidden to approach that forest. Any human who entered that forest would end up dead. Therefore, during the past few years, though there had been wars between the two kingdoms, the Maple Ridge remained unaffected. But on this day, outside the Maple Ridge, on a vast and bleak battleground, a war between humans and magic beasts was about to start. Under normal circumstances, only magic beasts at Tier 6 and above possessed intelligence. Those at levels below Tier 6 only launched attack when they were trying to catch prey or when humans intruded into their territories, just like common beasts. But now, on this battleground, this scene was seen. Numerous magic beasts formed up into orderly ranks behind a female, as if following their leader. Human also dispatched massive armies here, standing on the other side. The two sides were confronting each other. Tension on the battleground was rapidly reaching flashpoint, as if the war might break out at any moment. Despicable humans, hand over my child, the phoenix thundered with extreme anger, glaring at those dozens of 100,000 human troops. The moment she finished the last word, those magic beasts behind her roared in unison. Roar, with a tremendous momentum, the roar made the welkin ring. There were several commanders leading the human armies, but the commander-in-chief was a fairly handsome, middle-aged man who was in his early 40s. Phoenix, as a divine beast, you should know there are rules in mortal realm. You've already killed all those humans who intruded into your territory that night. The missing of your child doesn't concern other humans. Humph. Doesn't concern other humans? You humans are greedy and despicable by nature. It was definitely you humans who took my child away from me. If you don't hand over my child to me, I'll throw the whole mortal realm into eternal chaos. That night, humans were the only intruders apart from the Black Dragon. She remembered that back then a human teenage girl intruded into her nest. It must be when the Black Dragon swirled up the magma that the teenage girl stole her child. As a result, during the past more than a month, magic beasts in the Maple Ridge had invaded border cities of Zhou Kingdom and Longshu Kingdom several times. They ruthlessly killed all humans they caught sight of, no matter they were residents of Zhou Kingdom or Longshu Kingdom. After over a month's invasion, Zhou Kingdom was finally driven beyond forbearance and dispatched massive armies here. The previous earth-shaking explosions were caused by shells fired by two mighty cannons transferred here from the imperial city. Bomb! When Yunwoo finally managed to climb out of that bottomless pit, another explosion was heard, quaking the ground. Unlike the muffled sound she heard in the bottomless pit, this explosion was extremely distinct. Yunwoo wiped the sweat off her forehead and couldn't help mumbling, a cannon? There are actually such things as cannons existing in this exotic world? But the explosion seemed to be accompanied by vague sounds of people fighting. She felt that the source of the sounds was very far away. Mom! A babyish voice came from her chest. Yunwoo lowered her head and watched that little guy which had just craned its round head out of her clothes, opening its sleepy big eyes. It seemed to be the sound of artillery that woke it up. It rubbed its eyes with its little claws, pouted its little two-fanged mouth and gave a murmur. What an adorable creature. Heart melted, Yunwoo couldn't help intending to stretch out her hand to pinch its chubby little face. This little thing seemed like a human but was not. The red feathers on it converted into wings, but it didn't look like a phoenix at all. She had no idea what this species was. But this chubby little thing was a pretty cute sight. Hungry, hungry. Suddenly, Reek raised its head and piteously looked at Yunwoo with its big, round and liquid eyes. Hungry. That made sense. Even she herself was starving. This little thing had merely chewed on her hair but hadn't eaten anything after its birth. No wonder it was hungry. But what did this little thing feed on? Milk? Meat? Or worms? Boom! Boom! While Yunwoo was contemplating, another 2 booms was heard. The source of them seemed to be outside the forest. Mom, hungry. Okay, okay. I'll get you something to eat. Yunwoo flicked a glance in the direction of that explosion and then ignored it, planning to find some food to fill their bellies. On hearing this, little Reek looked very happy. The little fatty crawled out of her clothes and soon expertly climbed up her neck to the top of her head. Ahead, ahead. Savory, savory. It yelled in a babyish voice, holding on to her hair. Yunwoo, whose hair was gripped and under command, felt depressed and resigned. Because she suddenly felt that it was riding her like riding a horse. But she still headed for the ahead that it mentioned, planning to find out what that savory it said was. However, what she didn't know was that she and that little thing on her head were the cause of that war between humans and magic beasts outside the forest. In the Luo city. Master, all scouts reported. There was still no news. Lingqi, who was wearing a mask, respectfully reported to the person sitting on a chair. However, the atmosphere in the room seemed to be chilly. The master's heavy mood could be distinctly felt. What about the Maple Ridge? Holding a teacup, Long Qingxie slowly took a sip, raised his head in a seemingly demonic manner and flicked a glance at Lingqi. His magnetic voice was very calm and bland. But only those who knew him well were aware that the more calm and bland he appeared, the angrier he actually was. Lingqi lowered his head and respectfully replied, on the sight of humans, magic beasts in the Maple Ridge go furious and try to eat and kill them. Several members of the search team sent there has been killed. Because of that Phoenix, they haven't been able to enter the forest to search for clues during the past over a month. After saying this, Lingqi involuntarily raised her head, watched Long Qingxie and added, Master, it has been over a month. If that lady really entered the Maple Ridge, then she must have either fled or... He broke off in the middle of a sentence. Because he seemed to have felt the chilly, bloodthirsty aura about his master. Please simmer down, Master. I shouldn't have said that, Lingqi hurriedly said. Long Qingxie slightly curved his sexy, thin lips, but the smile on them was glacial. In a cold voice, he said, Leave. Go get your punishment. Lingqi nodded and said, Yes. After that, Lingqi turned around and took his leave. But he was very curious about that girl. Having been serving his master for 12 years, he knew very well that his master was a man with lofty ambitions, that before the time was right, he would always make sure the situation was well in hand and consolidate at every step. But during the past over a month, in order to find that girl, his master even dispatched the forces that he had been hiding all along. What kind of girl was she exactly? How come his master cared about her so much? A figure was swishing in the forest. Which part of the depths of this forest was she going to? Yunwoo didn't know. Anyway, she was going in the direction that the little thing on her head was pointing to. They arrived at a place where there were thistles and thorns all around. It was rather dark in this forest, and there was a faint air of mystery and danger around this place. Savory, savory. Little Reek on her head took a few sniffs, stretched out its chubby little claw and pointed at the depths of the bush surrounded by thorns in front of them. Stop saying, savory. Can you see these thorns as dense as spider webs? They're poisonous. What is it that you little thing want to find exactly? Watching those thorny bushes, Yunwoo said sourly to Little Reek, which was still waving its claws on her head. She looked around and found that the area within a 10-mile radius around this place was probably full of thorns, that she would have to slash her way through these thorns if she wanted to get to the depths. Savory. Right at this moment, Little Reek on her head suddenly jumped down. It toddled towards those thorny bushes on its chubby little legs. Yunwoo was startled, saying, Reek, you want to become a hedgehog? However, before her voice died away, that little thing raised its head and took a deep breath. Ah, pooh. With a sneeze-like sound, it suddenly breathed a line of fire out of its little mouth, which shot straight through the bushes like a fire dragon. Instantly, the fire dragon devoured all thorns in its way, and with that a path appeared. Seeing that there was a path now, little Reek grinned, revealing its wicked-looking fangs, and then happily said to Yunwoo, "Mom, savory." After that, before Yunwoo reacted, it joyously toddled straight towards the depths of the bush on its chubby little legs. In the blink of an eye, its figure went out of her sight. "Hey, Reek! Wait a moment." Seeing this, Yunwoo hurriedly rushed forward. Along the path made by that little thing with fire, she went squarely into the depths of the bushes. However, though she had tried to catch up at a very fast speed, she didn't see that little guy's figure. In the depths of those bushes, there was a dense wood, and the path branched off in several directions. "Reek!" Standing at the intersection, Yunwoo yelled. But there was no response. "That damn Reek! Its legs are short and fat. How come it disappeared so soon?" Yunwoo frowned. Resigned, she randomly took one of those paths. It was dark, and fog started showing up around. After only a few steps, the path branched off in several directions again. It seemed as if she was in a maze. What the hell was this place? However, right on cue, an inexplicably pleasant smell wafted over, which gladdened her heart and refreshed her mind. Yunwoo lifted her eyebrows and followed the scent. A land of idyllic beauty. Along a winding path, she walked through a wood of giant, ancient trees and arrived at a valley of idyllic beauty. There were flowers, pools and also a small pavilion. Apparently, somebody built this secluded place. Among everything in this valley, the giant, ancient tree in the middlemost position of the valley was the most intrusive. Its trunk was so thick that even 10 people opening their arms hand in hand wouldn't be able to encircle it. The source of that fragrance was the fruits on that gigantic tree, which were colorful, of strange shapes and giving off a special fragrance. That fragrance was really tempting, especially for Yunwoo, who had been starving for a long time. She swallowed hard and could barely subdue her urge to rush over, pick a couple of those fruits and gobble them down. But she had just raised her foot when she saw a magic beast on the other side of the valley out of the corner of her eye. It had a tiger's head and a condor's body, which looked familiar to Yunwoo. Wasn't it a tiger condor, a specimen of which she had once seen in the magic beast's forest in the north? Why was a tiger condor here? And it seemed as if that tiger condor had died not long before. "Mom! Savory!" Yunwoo was contemplating with a frown on her face when a babyish voice came from that gigantic tree. She flicked a careful look at the tree and saw that fatty Reek sitting on a branch amid dense foliage was gnawing away at a red fruit in its hands, its little legs dangling. Yunwoo cast a resigned glimpse at it. But she didn't walk up to the tree but turned and headed for that tiger condor. Though her strength had been fully restored after that sleep she had had in the bottomless pit, and she had no uncomfortable feelings, she still had to drink beast blood whenever she had the chance, just in case, since her body hadn't revived yet. This tiger condor was in middle stage of Tier 5. There were no wounds caused by fight in its body, except for 2 tiny, almost undetectable tooth marks in its neck. Who else could have done this apart from that little guy? Yunwoo felt that this was very strange. Was Reek not a descendant of a phoenix? It could breathe fire, but other than that, she really didn't see this little thing was a phoenix descendant. Instead, it was more like a baby zombie. Little Reek, who was enjoying the fruit on the tree, suddenly paused. It blinked its big eyes, tilted its little head and looked at Yunwoo, who was drinking beast blood down below, a confused look on its face. What is Mom doing? Feeling that she had drunk enough blood, Yunwoo stood up and wiped her mouth. The lingering smell of blood in her mouth disgusted her, but she ignored it and flashed straight towards the giant tree. She casually plucked a white fruit about the size of a honey peach and took a bite of it. So refreshing. Immediately, the refreshing, juicy flesh of the fruit as well as the pleasant scent of it dissolved the foul smell of blood in her mouth. Yun-woo's eyes involuntarily lit up. "Reek, you little thing are really a picky eater. This fruit tastes so good. No wonder you had me travel so far to come here. Let's have some more." Yun-woo gobbled down the fruit, feeling both amazed and delighted at its delicious taste. On hearing Yun-woo's compliment, little Reek grinned, revealing its wicked-looking, sharp teeth, which made it a congenitally ferocious sight. However, Yun-woo's attention was on those colorful fruits, so she didn't notice this. Unknowingly, Yun-woo consumed over 10 fruits, but she was still not full. Instead, the more she ate, the more she wanted to eat more. "These fruits are so good. I should take them all. When I get back, I can give some to Grandma Medicine and Little Leaf, and that man, too." Thinking about this, Yun-woo started plucking those fruits like crazy. When Yun-woo leaped onto the ground, the tree, which was originally full of fruits, had not a single fruit left on it. Little Reek had eaten 4 or 5 red fruits and was full. At this moment, it also climbed down the tree with its claws and chubby little legs. "Have you had enough?" Yun-woo lowered her head and looked at the little guy. The little guy nodded, looking robust and vigorous. It raised its big, round eyes, watched Yun-woo and stroked its full belly, saying, "Full. What an adorable sight. That's good. Let's go. I'll take you to your mother." Yun-woo subdued her urge to pinch its cute chubby face. After saying this, she turned around, face full of satisfaction. She had eaten her fill and also packed a lot of fruits into her storage space, so of course she was in a good mood. "Mother?" On hearing this, little Reek tilted its head and thought for a while but failed to figure out the meaning of that word. But it still joyously followed Yun-woo on its chubby little legs. When they were passing the tiger condor, little Reek suddenly stopped, as if something had just occurred to it. Yun-woo noticed that there hadn't been any footsteps behind her for quite a while. She couldn't help turning her head back and took a look. "Little Reek, what are you doing?" Yun-woo said with a frown on her face when she saw the little thing lying prostrate on the tiger condor's body. The little guy jumped off the tiger condor, looked at Yun-woo and repeatedly shook its head like shaking a rattle, knitting its eyebrows tightly together. "It's awful and foul. Mom, don't drink it again." At first Yun-woo didn't quite understand why it did that. After hearing its words, light suddenly dawned on her. It was imitating what she had just done. Yun-woo pulled a wry face. She drank beast blood because she had to, but this little guy imitated her purely out of curiosity. "Little Reek, you little thing, be careful about what you try to imitate from now on. Don't just blindly imitate everything others do." Upon these words, Yun-woo turned around, walked over and picked it up. Being held in Yun-woo's arms, it was very happy. "Mom," it said excitedly in a babyish voice. Yun-woo's heart was slightly melted. "What is it?" "I'm hungry." "What?" Yun-woo was stunned. "Didn't it say that it was full just a moment ago?" She lowered her head and was just about to ask when that little guy in her arms opened its mouth full of sharp fangs and bit into her shoulder extremely ferociously. "Ah!" Yun-woo's face changed due to the stabbing pain and abruptly tried to throw it away. But its 2 little claws gripped her clothes. She not only failed to throw it away but also caused her shoulder to be slit by its claws, blood gushing out. That little guy drank even more happily. Blood vessels rippled beneath the skin of Yun-woo's forehead. For an instinct, she could scarcely suppress an urge to strangle this weird creature. Tisk, tisk. Totally unaware of this, little Reek drank even quicker, clicking its tongue. The burning pain on her shoulder made Yun-woo feel both depressed and annoyed, her eyes ablaze with anger. "Little Reek." Yun-woo thundered and stretched out her hand, attempting to pull it off her shoulder. But the moment she touched it, sizzle. Its body temperature seemed to be as high as 8 million degrees Celsius. Her palm instantly blistered. It was so hot. Yunwoo's eyes were full of astonishment. Staring at little Reek, who was still drinking her blood, she inexplicably felt restless and anxious. What kind of monster was it? That was clearly a phoenix egg, but this guy not only didn't look like a phoenix but also liked drinking human blood. While Yunwoo was agitated, she suddenly felt a pang of burning pain in her shoulder. That pain was somewhat familiar. Yunwoo was suddenly stunned. The primal fire. Right on cue, 1/3 of the primal fire in her body was instantly sucked by it. It was sucking the primal fire in her body. Burp. As if it finally had enough, the little guy on her shoulder let go and gave a loud belch. 1/3 of the primal fire disappeared from her body. Feeling the change in her body, Yunwoo couldn't help but frown, glaring at little Reek, who was in her arms. Seeming to have sensed her anger, little Reek flicked a piteous look at her with its liquid big eyes, pulled her clothes with its little claws, and then rubbed itself against her chest. Was it acting pitiable? Looking at its affectedly pitiful look, Yunwoo tried hard to suppress her annoyance. However, right at this moment, all of a sudden. Ah! A pang of burning pain clutched at her shoulder, as if something was corroding her body. The pain was so sharp that she broke out in a cold sweat. Confused, little Reek tilted its head and looked at Yunwoo's face. Seeing that she seemed to be in great pain, it knitted its little eyebrows. And then, it stretched out its little claw and patted on the wound in her shoulder. It's okay. It's okay. Its voice was babyish, but it was imitating an adult's tone. Yunwoo pulled a wry face in depression. All of a sudden, a dull red light instantly flashed out of the wound in Yunwoo's shoulder and abruptly shrouded both of them in it. Little Reek's chubby claw was slit open by something and its blood was dripping down onto the wound in her shoulder. Their blood mixed with each other, and with that a small cloud of dull red blood shot out of the wound and landed beside Yunwoo's feet. Surprisingly, it twisted itself and formed into a complex, bizarre circle, giving off a cold and a hot chi, both of which were mysterious and ancient. Seeing this sudden change, Yunwoo stood transfixed with shock for quite a while. Is this by any chance? After arriving at this exotic world, she had read a lot of books on general history and seen patterns similar to this circle in one of them. Wasn't this circle the long lost? An indenture circle? An amazed voice came from inside the pendant, as if the speaker had just waken up from a deep sleep. An indenture circle? Was this really an indenture circle peculiar to summoners? Elder White, you woke up. Yunwoo, who had been in shock, said in surprise and delight after hearing the voice. But meanwhile, a beam of scarlet light and another one of black light abruptly shot upwards into the sky from the circle, as if connecting the Welkin and the earth. Right at this moment, all magic beasts in this forest raised their heads in awe and looked in the direction of Yunwoo as if by tacit agreement. Some low-level magic beasts even prostrated themselves, trembling, horror and panic glinting in their eyes. In the innermost area of the magic beasts' forest in the north. In that cave, an old man, who was sitting cross-legged like a statue, abruptly opened his eyes when the two beams of light shot into the sky. A puzzled look flashed across his old eyes of wisdom. An indenture circle. Looking in the direction of somewhere outside the forest, he knitted his white eyebrows. A summoner? How come there is chi of a summoner's birth? At this moment, a middle-aged hurriedly waked into the cave. Master Shifu. A vision suddenly appeared in the sky. It seems to be in the direction of our ambrosian fruits orchard. A middle-aged man walked inside and said urgently. Last time, they were late and somebody stole the flame fruit soon after its ripening. He calculated the time and found that those ambrosian fruits in the ambrosian fruits orchard would soon ripen. Just now, there had been a sudden vision in the sky above the orchard, so the middle-aged man naturally went nervous. The old man stood up and cast a glance in the direction of that vision with his eyes which had witnessed vicissitudes of his life, a somewhat solemn look on his face. Go there and check. Yes. Yes, the middle-aged answered. The moment he walked out of the cave, with a sudden move of his figure, he disappeared into thin air. However, after thinking for a while, as if concerned, the old man also walked out of the cave and vanished on the spot after a flick of his body. The moment the two beams of light shot into the sky, Yunwoo had this weird feeling that there was a close identity between her existence and that of the Welkin and that of the earth. She felt as if she was capable of controlling the Welkin and the earth if she wanted to, as if she was the dominator of them. Was this how it felt to be a summoner? This feeling was so tempting. However, the light soon turned into a crimson dazzlingly luminous sphere, split into two parts. One of them shot into Yunwoo's forehead and the other into Little Reek's. She felt a sudden constriction in her forefinger, as if something had just clasped it. Yunwoo involuntarily lowered her head and took a look. To her surprise, a crimson ring had appeared around her forefinger out of thin air. Was this by any chance, like what legend had it, an indenture ring which was a symbol of the identity as a summoner? Right at that moment, a sudden pang of stabbing pain clutched at Yunwoo's head and with that pieces of information flooded into her mind. A summoner? An equal indenture? The general meaning of those pieces of information was that she had comprehended an indenture circle of her own which had indentured Little Reek, that she had become a summoner. There was also a long piece of information that she didn't quite understand. But she believed the meaning of it was probably similar to that of other information. However, her body still hadn't revived yet. How come she became a summoner and also indentured this little guy? She had a lot of confusions but couldn't figure them out no matter how hard she tried. Since an indenture had been signed, an unbreakable bond had also been forged between her and Little Reek. Yunwoo could even feel the change of Little Reek's mood as well as its fighting capability without verbal communication with it. Yes, she could feel its fighting capability, which was amazing. However, this Little Reek's fighting capability was zero. It had no fighting capability at all. Yunwoo was embarrassed. No matter what, wasn't it a descendant of a phoenix? How come it had no fighting capability? Wasn't this guy too weak? Mom. Seeming to have felt that the relationship between it and Yunwoo had just become closer, Little Reek grinned happily. When it grinned, its sharp fangs were revealed, which startled Yunwoo. Fine. Though it had no fighting capability, at least its fangs made it seem ferocious enough. In the future, when she encountered an enemy she couldn't defeat, she could just ask it to reveal its fangs, and hopefully the enemy would be scared. Totally unaware of her thought, Little Reek smiled even more brightly. Elder White, what happened to you? You'd been quiet for such a long time. After the indenture was reached, Yunwoo didn't stay there. Carrying the little guy who kept trying to rub itself against her chest and acting cute, Yunwoo couldn't help ask this question while walking towards the periphery of the forest. In the pendant, that aged voice gave a resigned sigh. I don't know either. I just feel that the seal has become much firmer recently. It seems as if I'm going to be sealed again. You're going to be sealed again? Hasn't I removed the seal already? Yunwoo frowned. I don't know what is going on either. Now the seal is restoring itself bit by bit. If it weren't for that you just comprehended an indenture circle and woke me up, maybe I'll be sealed while asleep. How did this happen? Elder White, I've already become a summoner. Do you think I can indenture you? You can't. Your body still hasn't revived yet. Elder White's aged voice sounded somewhat resigned. Her body still hasn't revived. Was it by any chance because her body hadn't revived and she hadn't indentured him that the seal began to restore itself? Thinking about this, Yunwoo inexplicably felt a little anxious. If that was the case, she had to find Long Qingxie and return to the Imperial City as soon as possible. Yunwoo had just walked out of the forest when miscellaneous loud sounds of fighting were heard. What the hell was going on? Was that fight outside the nest of the phoenix that night by any chance still ongoing? It had been so long. They still hadn't finished fighting. What she didn't know was that two figures had just appeared in mid-air above that orchard. When the middle-aged man caught sight of the fruit tree, all fruits on which had been plucked without even an unripe one left, as well as the body of the tiger condor, his face became so black that it seemed as if some kind of black liquid was about to ooze out of it. Who did this? Which despicable bastard stooped to theft again and again? I'll tear you to pieces. A growl accompanied by a potent chi instantly rippled outwards. Once again, panic spread through magic beasts in the area within an 100-mile radius around the orchard. The face of the old man standing in mid-air also darkened when he saw that all fruits on the tree had been stolen. Find that person. You must find the thief, even if you have to search every inch of this area. There was extreme anger in the old man's voice. Yes. Outside the Maple Ridge, the war between humans and magic beasts had begun. Roars of magic beasts, boom of cannons, sounds of hand-to-hand fighting. Even the air was filled with smell of blood. With sharp claws and fangs as their weapons, magic beasts' fighting capability was very potent. Humans' fighting capability was relatively lower, but they were able to use fighting spirit to defend themselves, and they also had weapons such as swords and cannons. Lying prostrate on a branch of a big tree on the verge of the forest, Yunwu couldn't help clicking her tongue when she saw the intense battle happening on the vast battleground. She had thought that the fight outside the phoenix nest that night had been still ongoing. Unexpectedly, it was a massive battle between a human army and magic beasts. This scene was much more wonderful than that confrontation between the Ouyang family and the Murong family in the magic beasts forest that day. She saw that not far away, a magic beast directly slit open a man's belly, his bloody intestines dropping down. On another side, a soldier's fighting spirit surged out and smashed a magic beast's head, its brains splashing around. How gory the battle was! But Yunwu felt inexplicably excitement well up inside her, as if her blood was boiling. Why was she feeling this? Yunwu had no idea. She just felt that she enjoyed this bloody scene very much. A faint purple light gleamed in her purple eyes. Suddenly, little Reek in her arms widened its big eyes, tilted its little head and looked at Yunwu, as if surprised. Yunwu was staring in the direction of the battleground, ignoring it. As a result, she didn't notice that a purple light also flashed across its big, round eyes. Excitement and a thirst for blood flashed across its big eyes, and with that it opened its little red mouth, raised its head and let out a piercing, ferocious phoenix cry. Clang! The phoenix cry emanated right from Yunwu's chest, and it nearly perforated her eardrum, causing a sharp pain in her head. Was it crazy? Originally, Yunwu had intended to quietly enjoy the scene of the battle. Now her plan was ruined. The moment Phoenix, who was leading magic beasts fighting with humans, heard the cry, all her attention was distracted from the battle. She turned her head back and looked in the direction of the source of the cry. Her eyes rested squarely on Yunwu. Even dense foliage was unable to block her view. When she saw the little guy in Yunwu's arms, her beautiful eyes abruptly widened. That was her child. But how did it hatch out? To hatch a phoenix egg, a phoenix must stay beside the egg and let the egg absorb its heat. This was the only way. But due to the intrinsic mother-child bond, she knew that was her child. Human. Give me my child back. Phoenix's angry voice resounded around the whole battlefield. Her red figure leaped upwards, transformed into its original beast form, which was a fiery red phoenix, and then let out a resonant, piercing phoenix cry, making the welkin ring. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.